across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome. If you were listening or watching Mark Dolan's show, you will have heard the sad news that our friend, the great Rod Liddle, one of the greatest journalists of his generation, if not the greatest journalist of his generation, has sadly died. As soon as I heard it, it brought back memories. For about a year or so, when I was doing the evening show, The Political Asylum, he used to come on every Tuesday at 7 p.m. and for about 20-25 minutes. They were the funniest, most dangerous 25 minutes of my working week. I always remember him, you know, there we'd see suddenly, he wasn't all that great at the technology, old Rod. So, you know, suddenly his face would loom up, it was too close, and then he'd loom back and the lighting would be all wrong. And then, you know, in the early days, you'd see the smoke coming up from his Marlboro glass of wine. And then he would proceed to deliver, you know, 20-25 minutes of brilliant, incisive analysis, hilarious. To say that he didn't suffer fools gladly was the understatement of the century. He attacked everybody. He was an equal opportunity insulter, and he did it brilliantly. He was a contrarian, a controversialist. Whatever you thought, he'd go out of his way to think the opposite and to destroy your argument as well. I remember those times. I miss old Rod. We all do. And, you know, as I said to Mark, we who I think campaign for a return in this country to some kind of common sense. It's not about being right-wing, left-wing. It's about dealing with the issues that affect this country sensibly. We don't seem to do that. That's what Rod was all about. You know, he was a great enemy of the insanity, the juvenile madness of wokery. He was an enemy of the inefficiency, the incompetence of the left. But that isn't to say that he was an enemy of the left, if you see what I mean. Anyway, R.I.P. my old friend Rod Liddle, and we will pay full tribute to Rod later in the show. He was a columnist for The Spectator, The Sunday Times, The Sun. He had his own show on Times Radio, our station, sister station. Used to come on here a lot. And we will miss him greatly. We've lost, as I said to Mark, in my view, we have lost the greatest journalist of his generation. R.I.P. Rod Liddle. We will play tribute to Rod later in the show. Meanwhile, good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and I'll be your host for 3 powerhouse hours of news, views and topical debate all the way to 7 o'clock. Get on the show, get it off your chest, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Monday, August the 3rd. Here's what's coming up. Rupert Lowe offers an olive branch to Nigel Farage in an apparent bid to unite the right. Farage, in effect, says he'll think about it. So far, so good. But in terms of Lowe's peace deal, is it actually possible? Demanding that Reform never appoints to positions of power any former Tory politicians, Robert Jenrick, Suella Braverman, Danny Kruger, etc. Demanding that Reform complies entirely with Restore Britain's very hardline deportation policies, and so much more, not even remotely likely to be agreed to, these terms. I guess if Lowe is prepared to compromise, there's a tiny slither of hope, but don't bet the farm on it. As for the Conservatives, apart from Kemi, what will they ever bring to the party after being beaten by Restore Britain in the Manchester mayoral by-election? Does anyone even need this clapped-out party that gave us the migrant crisis? 0344 499 1000. In other news, Andy goes to the White Cliffs of Dover and doubles down on gaslighting the nation with his ludicrous nonsense about Labour's plan to stop the boats working. This palpable lie after more than 2,000 migrants came across the Channel illegally in the first 2 weeks of Burnham's socialist paradise. Labour's plan isn't working, is it? 0344499 1000. Meanwhile, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood says Britain can't kick out migrants like Spain did to Ceuta's sudden 60,000 invaders, because we have to process our migrants' asylum applications first. Gee, I just can't think why this Labour government is so utterly defeated by the migrant crisis. Can you?
We got to process them asylum applications first.
Of course you do, Shabana, that's right. 0344 499 1000. Also, on today's action-packed show, a council wins a High Court injunction against flying patriotic flags. Anti-Semite row MP Diana Abbott is allowed back into the Labour Party. Morrison's, the supermarket, wins the Early Christmas Awards, selling Advent calendars in July. And Kinsey Schofield joins us later with all the latest news from Planet Meghan. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now, on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Monday afternoon together. And let's go over to my first guest. She is a lead organiser of the Pink Ladies and a prominent member of Restore Britain, Rupert Lowe's party movement, Orla Minahan. Welcome, Orla.
Hello, hi, how are you?
I'm OK, good to have you on the show. Glad we've got you, because I need to get your take on Rupert Lowe's offer to Nigel Farage to reform. I think we've got a bit of a clip of it, have we? Let's play a little of what Rupert had to say. OK, we're just going to get that ready now.
Don't worry, I've seen it.
No, but I wanted to play it to the audience. Well, I realised you would have seen it, Orla. Now, listen, all right, let's talk about it. We'll play it in just a second.
Yeah.
Look, Rupert Lowe knows what he's doing. Those offers he made, look, I think a lot of people would like the right to unite.
Yeah.
For Nigel and Rupert to get over their obvious differences.
Yeah.
But the terms of Rupert's peace deal, you know, Orla, in the real world, absolutely never going to happen. Let's just quickly, we've got that clip ready. Let's just remind ourselves of what Rupert put out on social media yesterday. It was like a 11, 12-minute video.
So, Nigel, my message is simple. If you are prepared to work together around serious policies, serious reform, and serious government, then so are we. Not because it's politically convenient for Restore Britain, not because it's personally easy, but millions and millions of British people deserve a patriotic government that puts our national interest before any personal differences that you and I may have.
Well, look, so far so good, Orla, but he went on to say that, you know, should there be some kind of pact, that no former Tory MPs can become cabinet ministers or cabinet secretaries in a future reform government. That would cut out, of course, Robert Jenrick, Suella Braverman, Danny Kruger, quite a few more. So there's no way Nigel Farage is going to accept that.
So if I may, Kevin, I'm gonna take this from a slightly different angle, if you don't mind. So I'm going to look at, I want you to take me away from the fact that I'm a part of Restore, and I'm going to come back to you as a mother and a woman and an advocate for women's safety, hence the Pink Ladies. Yeah. Now, I'm the one, and women like me get phone calls every day from people that have been sexually assaulted or raped, or their children have. I get phone calls from women that are living in room bed sits with their children, while Nigerian or Afghan or Sudanese families are given.
I'm with you all the way,
houses.
Orla, but what has that got to do with? What's this got to do with Rupert's offer?
I'm going to get to my point. My point is this. The point is, do you really think that women and parents and everyday people in this country really care about who is running a party or who is there or who's doing this, that and the other or arguing. No, that every normal right-wing person in this country, reform or restore, want a right-wing government that are going to protect them and protect their families and their families' future. That is what they want. And I speak to reform members every day, and they all want the same thing.
So why did Rupert, in your view, then make his terms so impossible for Nigel?
They're not impossible.
Of course
Kevin.
they are.
Why?
Really, Orla? You really think Nigel Farage is going to say to Rupert, "Fair enough, I'll in effect sack Robert Jenrick, Suella Braverman, and Danny Kruger"? He's not going to do it, is he?
It's called negotiation. Any business person.
Well, why did Rupert put that in? Why did he make it difficult?
He was a starting point. Every businessman or woman goes into a negotiation with terms.
Why not just say, let's work together? Why not just say, let's get together, form a pact? Why does he have to put all those stringent requirements in there?
He put those down as the terms that Restore Britain members want to see. And I will argue with you, Kevin, that most reform members want to see the same things. They want to see the borders closed. They don't want to see Islam taking over. They don't want to see their daughters having to wear hijabs or burqas.
That's not in there. He asked for mass deportation of illegal migrants, including women and children. He asked for tougher rules on illegal migration, a ban on halal and kosher slaughter, the burqa, cousin marriage and Sharia courts. I would have thought that certainly the tougher rules on legal migration, etc., Farage could work with. The mass deportation, including women and children, might be difficult. Referendum on a death penalty, I don't see a problem with that at all. Welfare cuts, we can all agree on that. But the exclusion of former Tory ministers from any future cabinet, Farage is going to turn around to Lowe and say, get that out, otherwise we're not even talking.
But that's a negotiation, Kevin. And let me just say one thing, if I may. Nigel said on a press conference this morning, I will not turn my back or throw my friends under the bus. Now, we could argue that that's exactly what they did to Rupert. So, you know, I think that they need to be very careful in the terminology they use. My point is this, Kevin. Ultimately, the man and woman on the ground in this country who are struggling to bring up their families and keep their daughters safe do not care. They want to see a safe environment where their wives and their daughters can walk down the street.
That's all very well, all of them not caring.
Well, no, that's all very well, Kevin. That's the fundamentals.
But no, it's not the fundamentals. The fundamentals of politics are mathematics. It's do you have enough votes to win an election?
No,
and the whole point of this is the possibility that mathematically Restore Britain and Reform UK could pool their votes and therefore maybe have enough votes to beat the left at the next election. That's what that's about. So this is about maths, not much more.
Yes, I understand that, but I don't know what your point is. What's your point? Your point is saying that they need to come together to be able to have
you said that people don't really care about all this Westminster. It's not the point. They've got to. It's no point. You can't emotionally say to the population, "Oh, yeah, we're going to solve all these things and it's going to be safer for women and all that," and then not sort out the actual dynamics of how you go about doing that.
That's what Rupert is. That is what Rupert's saying. Rupert understands that on the ground people are terrified. We are being invaded daily. He is saying, Nigel, together we can save this country. Surely that is the most important thing. Now, if we're going to let this country rot because he wants Suella and Jenrick in position who were the catalyst for this, if he's going to let this country rot to keep those two in a cabinet, then we have a problem. And I think you'll find that most Reform members would rather Jenrick and Suella step aside so the two of them can save this country than keep his mates in cabinet.
Out of 100, Orla, How much would you say that Nigel Farage is going to accept Rupert Lowe's diktat that he must basically get rid of Robert Jenrick, Danny Kruger, Suella Braverman, and the rest of them? I'll tell you, it's 0 out of 100. He's not going to do it. He's not going to do it, is he?
Then he's not going to do it. That's fine.
So why did Rupert Lowe put that in then?
Because it's a starting point, Kevin.
He didn't have to do it, did he?
OK, well, he didn't have to do it. That's how he feels. And do you know what, Kevin? Most people that are in Restore were members of Reform. And they were members of Reform.
I understand.
And they moved because of Suella and Jenrick and that other idiot who pushed the vaccines on everybody. So with all due respect, this is the result of selling the public out. We didn't want Tories.
Yeah, but you do understand. Look, I get this, Orla. You know, I'm not opposing you on all this. I got a lot of sympathy with what you said.
You are opposing me, Kevin.
No, I'm not.
Exactly
I'm telling you. I'm just introducing you to the real world.
Nigel Farage.
Nigel Farage. Well, I'm going to introduce you to the real world because Nigel Farage will not accept that order to get rid of.
No deal then.
Well, OK, there won't be a deal then. So we've sorted it out then. So this is all a waste of time then.
You call Farage, I'll call Rupert, and we'll say no deal because me and you decided. Look, at the end of the day, they need to have a conversation. That is what men do. Two men who are in a position where they can save this country from catastrophe. And the two of them need to pull their big boy pants on and sort it out, like that woman said a minute ago. Because if they don't...
I agree with that.
You know what? I'll do it. I'll go and speak to them. Because I tell you what, if you put two bloody women together, we'd sort it out. This is absolute nonsense. And do you know what? The fact is...
You sound like Harriet Harman.
Huh? Yeah.
You sound like Harriet Harman.
I prefer Maggie.
She's always saying that. Oh, women can sort all problems out.
Well, not the Labour women, but we could. But the point is that we have to try, Kevin. For the sake of every person in this country, we have to try to work it out. Because I'm telling you now, neither of us will get a majority.
Okay, last question then. As I say, I'm not arguing. I get what you're saying.
You are arguing with me, but that's fine.
Well, no, I'm trying to say there are realities here. I'm not arguing with you. I'm not arguing with you. I'm arguing with the plausibility, the viability of the offer that Rupert Lowe has made to Nigel Farage. And I say that as it stands, it is utterly unviable.
Can I just say one thing? Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Out of the 5 points that Rupert has put forward, the sticking point is saving the arse of Tories who failed for 14 years. Is that the sticking point of saving this country? Well, I would have said that was the least of the issues, to be fair. But whatever. If that's going to be the sticking point that we're going to save Suella and Jenrick, fine. I'm pretty sure that the members of Reform will not be too happy about that.
Yeah, let me ask you about that. Last question to you, Orla.
Yes.
I'm only playing devil's advocate, you know, doing my job. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
But seriously, what I do like about this is at least we've moved up a dial in terms of uniting the right. The right are going to have to...
That's optimistic.
Well, at least we've started down the road.
Yes, OK.
You know, I agree with you. It is optimistic, but at least people are now talking about uniting the right. I'm wondering, my question to you is, do you feel in this uniting of the right, given the Tory party's history, this is the party that gave us the migrant crisis, that created and helped and augmented the migrant crisis. This is all their fault. Yeah, Labour have made it worse, but this is 14 years of Tory mismanagement. They gave us the migrant crisis. Is there any place in a uniting of the right for the Tory party, if in your view?
I don't know is the answer. I think that really depends on... I think that Kemi's done a very good job in turning the bad narrative around. I think that if you look at the polls, they're certainly doing much better than they did. I think that Kemi's very keen on getting rid of what she calls the wet Tories and making them more right-wing. I think that it needs to be all hands on deck to get rid of... And I'm by no means am I a Tory. I've never been a Tory, and I'm probably the only one that can say that. Praise the Lord. But the point being that I think it's going to take everything we can to keep the left out and to restore this country. And I think that we need to put everything aside to save our country. That is what patriotism is about, and that is the main important thing.
You're right, Orla. You should be in charge. I mean,
I should.
You
I know.
should. You really should.
Send me a contract.
Yeah, you're on. Really good to have you on the show, Orla. Always a pleasure. That's the great Orla Minahan there, taking me to task. But seriously, folks, what do you think? I mean, as I say, Rupert Lowe's offer to Nigel Farage is impossible. There are lots of elements in it that are impossible. So I'm wondering what you think as to why Rupert Lowe made this offer. Given that Nigel Farage can't possibly accept it. What do you think is going on? What's Rupert Lowe thinking here? 03444991000. Next up, we're going to go take a different tack, and we're going to talk about West Midlands Police. You know, they have a bad background. They're the police force that banned Jews from attending Maccabi Tel Aviv's Europa League match against Aston Villa in Birmingham. Because basically they sided with the local Islamic extremists. That's the police force we're talking about. The police chief, he had to step down because of that shambles, that debacle. Now, we're going to talk about West Midlands Police offering coppers and staff, non-Muslim coppers, non-Muslim staff, they're inviting them to fast during Ramadan, not because they're Muslims or they're of the Islamic faith, but as an act of solidarity with their Islamic Muslim colleagues. Really? Or how about, you know, they all celebrate Christmas as an act of solidarity with their Christian colleagues? How about that? What the hell is going on there? We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
I think what he suspects is that the leadership of Reform is in trouble with all these scandals, apparent scandals over donations. Reform, nevertheless, is well known across the country. Reform as a vehicle is capable, if it has the right leadership, of actually forming a government. And that with the weakened leadership of Reform, there's a risk that Reform itself will be lost. And he doesn't want to lose the potential of a vehicle that could provide the kind of government that he and I and others wish this country to have.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're going to deal with the migrant crisis and our Prime Minister's attempts to gaslight us and tell us that Labour's plan to stop the boats is working. How come 2,000 migrants, Andy, have come over since you became Prime Minister then? They've come over the channel illegally. Your plan isn't working. Stop telling us it is. That's just a lie. We'll go back to that issue, very important issue, in just a moment. But in the meantime, former Met Police detective Mike Neville is in the studio, and we're going to talk about this extraordinary diktat from West Midlands Police. Mike, West Midlands Police have invited non-Muslim officers, cops, and non-Muslim staff working at West Midlands Police to fast during Ramadan as an act of solidarity. Ramadan, of course, is the religious festival where Muslims spend a month or so not eating. It's the sort of Muslim equivalent of Lent. They give up food during the daytime and drink during the day. Now, OK, respect to all of that. But what on earth are West Midlands Police thinking, offering or inviting non-Muslim coppers and non-Muslim staff to join in this fast as an act of solidarity? What are they going to do? Ask Muslim coppers to join in Christmas as an act of solidarity with Christians? I bet they don't.
They won't do. And there's two real big issues, I think, Kevin, here. One is the perception of two-tier policing. We've already seen the scandals involving West Midlands Police in particular, with banning Jewish fans from attending a football match. We had, the Staffordshire Police telling the Muslim gangs to leave weapons in the mosque. We've had the Batley incident with the head teacher, and it's this public perception of two-tier policing, that one religion is treated differently from another. Even Kemi Badenoch said that the West Midlands Police have been sort of captured by Islamists. And that's a real bad thing about public confidence. The other issue as well is the risk to the public of anybody doing this. Now, what happens is Ramadan actually moves. So if it's near Christmas time, the sunset is very late and it goes dark early. But we now have sunset at 5:30 and sun rises at 5:30 and sun sets at 9 o'clock. So that's 15 and a half hours that somebody can't eat or drink water. Now, we know the impact on your body of that. You simply cannot function like that. There's a health issue. So there's a risk assessment issue here. How can you drive a fast car? Let's say it's now 8 o'clock on a late shift, a busy shift. How do you drive a fast car? How, as a senior detective, did you make decisions about a murder inquiry? Would we like firearms officers not to have eaten and drank for some 14 hours before they make a decision whether to shoot somebody? And it's all these things that add together. The Crown says, there's an exemption for pregnant women, for children. Well, it's about time it was updated, really. And we said, look, common sense dictates if you're a surgeon, a doctor, a nurse, firefighter, somebody's got to make vital, life-changing decisions, then they should be exempt, or do it at another time, or take leave, because it's just unfair to the public who have been served.
But particularly for this reason, I mean, you could level that worry, couldn't you, at all Muslim officers who have
Absolutely.
But so that is a problem. That's their religion.
Why even have more people doing this?
Well, exactly. This is spurious and stupid and fatuous. I mean, they don't need to do this, so don't do it. So West Midlands Police said the West Midlands Association of Muslim Police has, for a number of years, invited colleagues from all faiths and backgrounds to fast for a day to raise money for charity during Ramadan. Why? Just raise money. You don't have to fast, do you? It is entirely a matter for officers and staff if they wish to take part. This is an initiative which is undertaken at a number of organisations around the country. Well, it shouldn't be. The West Midlands has a large and diverse population, including many Muslim residents, and it is important for officers and staff to understand the significance of Ramadan to those communities. So that's what they say, but, there is no need for this. This is from a police force that has, in the very recent past, shown a really disturbing allegiance to local Islamic extremists. That's why they banned Jews from the Aston Villa Maccabi Tel Aviv match. The police chief then had to step down, had
Guildford,
to forcibly retire. So all in all, this police force, West Midlands, shows a disturbing subservience, I would suggest,
it does. And
Islam.
If you remember, after the Southport disorder, there was negotiations, you know, with the
stakeholders,
with Muslim community who have no election whatsoever. But what it does, as I said, there's two things. It puts the public at risk, and secondly, it just adds into this belief that there's two-tier policing, because you don't get the West Midlands police saying, oh, let's all celebrate Hanukkah together, let's all celebrate Christmas together, and it just sends out the wrong message. And I don't think any of these other religions ever asked for this to be done, and I don't really know if any Muslims have asked for this to be done. I imagine, like most things in this world, it's some white middle-class character who thinks they're doing the right thing by imposing this on others.
But also it seems to be part of West Midlands police culture.
It's a culture.
It's virtually an Islamic police force, it seems to me. Let me know what you think, folks. Should West Midlands Police be inviting its officers and its staff to take part in Ramadan? I mean, as I keep saying, let me tell you, they won't be inviting Muslim officers to take part in Christmas. Why are they doing it the other way round? 03444991000. Before you go, Mike, another serious police issue this. I mean, it's the story of our times. Bournemouth, once the kind of very epitome of genteel British seaside towns, used to be rather upmarket. They've converted 3 massive hotels in the middle of that once kind of very calm and serene resort into asylum seeker hotels. Thousands of asylum seekers now maraud around Bournemouth, and now Dorset police have had to send out extra patrols, extra cops, to patrol that benighted seaside town every day of every hour of every day to keep women and children safe. They shouldn't have to be doing that. Women and children shouldn't have to be living like that. That is just, that's a sign of our times. The police have got to divert all their resources, most of their resources, to patrolling the streets to keep women and children safe from the asylum seekers that now infest that town.
Yeah,
What's going on?
This is broken Britain, and it's particularly women and girls where the target is. And I've got skin in the game here because my daughters live in that area and go to school there, and I've seen the absolute change. It was a town where my grandparents would have gone there in the 70s, you know, an absolute safe haven of Englishness, really. And now we see men marauding around, we see sex attacks on the beach and things like that. Things that were absolutely unheard of. And what gets me, though, is the Dorset police haven't helped themselves, because I was advised there's a group called Safeguard who set up patrols, you know, the community members to go out and help the community, and Dorset police just won't work with them. On the other side of the coin, if you look at Crowborough, the Sussex police, where the army camp is there, where they put asylum seekers, the Sussex police are working with the local group who form themselves to give security to women and girls. But it is a shocking indictment that a town such as Bournemouth should come to this. No, who could have imagined this? If diversity is our strength, what is this about? Because this is not a strength at all.
Absolutely right. If you live in Bournemouth in particular, but give me a call on this issue generally, 03444991000. What has this country come to? That a local police force, in this case Dorset Police, have to divert a lot of their resources to daily, hourly patrols, special patrols, walking around the city, driving around that city, or town as it actually is, to protect women, as Mike says, little girls, from asylum seekers. I mean, what's happened to Britain? As Mike says, this is the epitome, the ground zero of broken Britain, isn't it? Let me know what you think. 03444991000. What the hell has happened to Bournemouth? Poor Bournemouth. It's not the only place where this has happened. 0344 499 1000. Big thanks to former Met Police Detective Mike Neville. Next up, I'm going to be joined by Samara Gill, Talk's Ace reporter. We need to talk about Andy Burnham's stance on the migrant crisis. He seems to think Labour's plan to tackle the boats is working, even though boats are coming across like the Spanish Armada. Don't quite know where he gets that idea. Also, Labour-controlled Oxfordshire County Council has won its High Court injunction banning patriots from flying the nation's flags. Isn't that special? 0344 499 1000. That next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm going to play you a little clip in a second of Andy Burnham. This is a PR appearance, a public relations appearance, which I guarantee will come back to haunt Andy Burnham almost every day in every way. He made the profound mistake of going down to the White Cliffs of Dover. So you've got the perfect backdrop for the migrant crisis, announcing, ludicrously, doubling down on his mad assertion that Labour's plan to stop the boats is working. He's saying this after the best part of 2 weeks, his entire premiership, throughout which more than 2,000 migrants chugged across the channel illegally in unlawful, not-so-small boats. So he's gaslighting us, to say the least. Lying might be a better description. Before we have a look at old Andy down in Dover, let's introduce or get on the show Samara Gill, our ace reporter. Hi, Samara.
Hi, Kev. Great to be with you.
Good to have you. Well, let's watch Andy yesterday in the sunshine down by the sea in Dover.
We have to deal with the issue rather than play politics with the issue. Just deal with it head on, grip it, and then make the changes that will bring that reassurance to the public. The public don't like the idea that the border looks like it's not controlled. We need to bring back that control, but also we need to offer support for people who genuinely need it. It's about changing the whole approach, and slowly but surely we are putting in place those building blocks of a very different approach to this issue. It's working, but there's more to be done.
Did you enjoy that? You hungry? Would you like some more word salad? Well, here's some.
The number of crossings is down by 50% this year compared with the same period in 2025. And the month we've just had, July, has been the lowest number for 6 years of people crossing. So clearly progress is being made, but we're not complacent. It's why I am here. So we're just going to be relentless. People want to see this issue addressed. I heard that on the doorsteps in Makerfield. But we also need to build a system that offers safe routes for people as well, because that also takes away the selling point of the gangs.
Do you like your word salad with Thousand Island dressing, blue cheese dressing, maybe ranch? I don't know. Which is your favourite? Because that was a load of empty verbiage. Everything that guy ever says about any issue can be summed up with this. He always goes, Labour are doing very well on the issue, but we could do more. We could do better. That's what he says on everything. So that was just his generic response to every single problem. Labour's done great work, but we could do better. As I say, that appearance with the White Cliffs of Dover behind him will come back to haunt him, because we look at that and that is almost a pictorial reminder of the fact that this guy, along with his predecessor, along with his Home Secretary, along with his lousy Labour government, have got no idea how to solve the small boat crisis.
I mean, he's acting as if a couple people have walked over the border, Kev. He's acting as if this is some sort of minor footnote in terms of how the country's feeling right now. It's just not true. We are at breaking point. We are at a national crisis level when it comes to illegal migration. Of course, you know, what we saw in Ceuta over the past week was staggering, but we've had double, if not triple, if you take into account the 8 years of illegal migration, of that cross our English borders through the Channel and through other capacities. So we are at the point where we can't just be, you know, pussyfooting around this issue. You know, the Prime Minister, he says he'll be relentless. Well, look, the British public, they've heard relentless, they've heard robust, they've heard world leading, they've heard smashing the gangs for years. But what they actually want is a sort of border that is completely under control. And what I hate, and you're so right about the gaslighting, Kev, is the fact that he is actually taking credit for Keir Starmer's record of the potential, you know, drop in crossings. Although, as you always say, and it is true, the boats are just getting bigger because they keep going, oh, small boats, that's the number that's gone down. But the amount of people is still at a mad level. Under Andy Burnham, I ran the numbers. The small boat crossings are actually up by 37%. So does he want to confront the fact that since he took premiership, the crossings are up by close to 50%? It's 37% is how much they're up. And when every day that he doesn't do anything about it, it's going to go up and up and up. And you're right, he's going to absolutely look back on those words and dread that he ever said them and was so weak on this issue to begin with. Because it's quite crazy, you know, how he dances around, first saying that people on Makerfield are concerned about migration, which is true. It was a massive issue in that by-election. But then saying that he wants to create more legal routes for illegal migrants. And this is something that Shabana Mahmood is really keen on. She's spoken about having people apply from Iran, from Eritrea, from the Sudan, throw whatever they can at the application and see if it gets through. And knowing how the Home Office works, I mean, that could be a catastrophic.
We want no routes. I hate this when they go, oh, we're going to create legal routes. How about this? No routes. You know, we're talking about, so for example, last Wednesday, a mere 752 migrants crossed the Channel illegally on unlawful small boats. Saturday, 326 more came across. So they're coming from France. He wants legal routes from France. What are you talking about? Why do they need to leave France? Is there war there? Are they escaping torture? No, they just want to come to Britain. And Andy Burnham and Shabana Mahmood and the gang want to set up legal routes for these economic male chancers to make it to the promised land. Basically, Andy Burnham, Shabana Mahmood and their cabinet, their Labour cabinet, do not believe in sovereign borders. They like the idea of these migrants coming across, which is why they are never relentless. They never have been, and they never will be. If they were relentless about stopping the boats, we would leave the European Convention on Human Rights right away. Because unless we leave the ECHR, we cannot even begin to solve this crisis. And yet, of course, human rights, this party is absolutely committed to remaining in that sclerotic old club that doesn't really achieve anything, but we are going to remain in the ECHR. Andy's committed to that, so Andy is not relentless about solving this crisis. He's completely lackadaisical about it. That is the truth.
Yeah, he's totally lackadaisical about everything. I mean, this whole leadership's just been one sort of lackadaisical vibes fest. I think the problem is, and you mentioned the ECHR, it's very interesting, isn't it, how with Ceuta, basically
Ceuta.
Spain has claimed that they've been able to return everyone back. And first of all, I don't think that's true at all. I think they're totally gaslighting the public in that sense. But what it's also proven is that they do have the possibility to return people. They can actually deport and return people pretty quickly if they want to, if there's some sort of political will behind it. Yeah. So this situation is making me think, ECHR or not, it is actually possible to do overnight.
Of course it is.
When Elon Musk weighs in and every other political leader, and there's a sort of global shock and outrage about it.
Well, what happened was, because of what happened in Ceuta, where the Spanish authorities, once the chips were down, did clear out those migrants pretty fast. There's more. So it is possible. There are more left in Ceuta than they're admitting, but they got rid of 50,000 of them in a day. Right, so Shabana Mahmood and this government are asked, well, look, can't we start to do that with all of our illegal migrants in this country? The answer is basically, first of all, they have no idea how many illegal migrants are here. They think it might be as many as 2 million that they just don't know about. And secondly, Shabana Mahmood said, oh, well, you see, it's kind of complicated because we can't just kick them out because we've got to process their asylum applications first. Yeah. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. This government has no resolve, has no determination to solve this. I would say sod their asylum seeker applications. I'd kick them out. That's what you should do if you want to solve this crisis. But this lot, oh no, we've got to process their applications, legal routes. It's all verbiage to get round to shield, to disguise the fact that this lot, this Labour government, does not want to stop the boats. It's as simple as that.
No! And how dare they, by the way, just give these men that sort of hope and let them pay those people smugglers, contribute to the black economy and potentially die at sea. That's what those policies are doing.
Exactly right. Samara, you're going to stay with us. We're going to go to break now. When we come back, we're going to talk about Oxfordshire County Council. It's a Labour councillor. You'll be shocked to hear they've just won a High Court injunction to ban their local citizens from hanging patriotic flags, the St George's Cross or the Union Jack, and to have the ones that are flying proudly in Oxford ripped down. Isn't that special? We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
I think what he suspects is that the leadership of Reform is in trouble with all these scandals, apparent scandals over donations. Reform, nevertheless, is well known across the country. Reform as a vehicle is capable, if it has the right leadership, of actually forming a government. And that with the weakened leadership of Reform, there's a risk that Reform itself will be lost. And he doesn't want to lose the potential of a vehicle that could provide the kind of government that he and I and others wish this country to have.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's ace reporter and presenter, Samara Gill. Did a great job on breakfast yesterday. No, mid-morning, wasn't it? Mid-morning here on Talk.
Felt like breakfast.
Whatever. I wasn't up for either of them. No, I was. I did listen to your show. Breakfast is a bit too early for me on a Sunday, but I listened to yours. Listen, let's talk about these flags. Oxfordshire County Council has won a High Court. They've gone to the High Court, spent all that taxpayers' money, council tax money, to get an injunction banning people from hanging patriotic flags, the Union Jack or the St George's Cross. They've won that legal bid, so that injunction is now granted. It's now illegal to put up flags in Oxfordshire. That's good, isn't it? And they can go around pulling them down. Meanwhile, staff who've been tasked with tearing down the flags have been ordered by the council to wear face masks and to be careful where they park their cars so that they can't be traced in case there are repercussions. In other words, demonising the kind of people who put flags up. But this High Court injunction gained by Labour's Oxfordshire County Council comes on the heels last week of Sarah Sackman, the Labour Minister for Courts, announcing that in her constituency, which is the North London constituency where I live, funnily enough, or near where I live, of Golders Green and Finchley, she announced that the many flags flying there, the Union Jacks and St George's Council, she wants them taken down because these are our national flags. She says they are unsettling, intimidating and othering. Labour MP, Labour minister there, Labour councillor goes to the Labour council goes to the High Court to have our national flags pulled down, torn down. What is it about Labour that they hate our national flag so much?
Well, you're completely right, Kev, about the fact that they do have a hatred for it. And I mean, since when did the Union flag and the English flag become something to apologise for? I mean, it's our bloody national flag. It's not a political statement. This is my Australian side coming out, but I really don't understand why it's so controversial. You know, that council itself actually has much bigger problems than lampposts. You know, I feel like a country that loses confidence in its own flag risks losing confidence in itself. And when you see the way that this injunction and all this court time has been used for something that is absolutely pathetic, like flag flying, is ridiculous. You know, when I was down in your area, Golders Green, asking a couple of locals about whether they cared or not about the flags, I was literally walking up and down that high street saying, does this bother you, this flag that's flying here right now? Not a single person felt uncomfortable by the flags that were flying. It's just a nice thing. And it's actually, especially for a place like Golders Green, it's good to have that sense of unity. Everyone needs to be able to get under the banner of one flag, considering the litany of terrorist attacks that have happened in that area against Jewish people. Yeah. And honestly, to hear about what's happening in Oxfordshire and the fact that actually that council has increased their council tax to 5%, or by 5%, one or the other, in my when I was reading about it, is ridiculous. You know, they've got massive issues there. They've got controversial transport policies. They've got all these really slow traffic lanes that they have to deal with. That a lot of people are saying that that council is being run terribly, from what I hear, yet they are in the High Court talking about flags.
Wasting their residents' money with this lawsuit to get our national flags taken down. It's absurd and it's sinister. Why does Labour hate our national flag so much? Both of our national flags, if you're English, the Union Jack and the St George's Cross. Let me know what you think, folks. 03444 99 1000. Well, I've got you, Samara. I've been thinking for obvious reasons today, of when you were producing me on the evening show, The Political Asylum, every Tuesday. We'd have our Rod Liddle moment. You guys having to frame him. Do you remember he was terrible at getting the picture right, terrible at getting the lighting right.
He was always a bit drunk.
Yeah, half drunk, cigarette going, glass of wine, and then out would come the best 25 minutes of the week. Hilarious. Very, very astute, analytical, a nice guy, but a brilliant guy and a controversial guy. But those Tuesdays, they were special, weren't they?
It was my favourite part of the week, without a doubt. And they will never make someone like Rod Liddle again.
They won't.
Seriously, but we have lost one of the greatest writers, one of the best journalists, someone who really got in there. And I was looking back at some clips of you and him actually this afternoon, just, you know, being melancholy, or I don't know. I was just kind of
usually our erudite discussions would very often dissolve into just hysterical laughter.
Yeah, he was so good. I mean, he was, the way that he was so perfunctory with how he would use language, and just, gosh, I mean, a mind like that gone far too soon. I mean, I would have loved to see what he thought about the Burnham government and what he would write about the way the world was going. But he was right about it all. And I just think that, you know, we've lost a great soldier in journalism. And God, I mean, Rod, he used to piss everyone off. He used to drive people mad. He used to abuse his assistant producers, me, via text message. But then I'd always get such a lovely statement at like 1 a.m. just being like, thanks so much for having me on, and then some random stuff in Russian for some reason. And he'd send me paragraphs about things, and the way that you and him bounced off each other is just, I'll look back on those days so fondly.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to miss old Rod. He was one of a kind. And your little swear word, we're going to leave that in, Samara, as a tribute to Rod. He would have loved it. He would have loved it. He really would. He could be difficult. He could be difficult, but again, hilariously, we're going to miss old Rod. We really, really are. We're going to pay him a proper tribute a little later in the show. But nice to get your thoughts, Samara, and nice to have you on the show as always. Thank you so much. That was ace reporter, Talks ace reporter and presenter Samara Gill on Andy Burnham's doubling down on the fact that he seems to think Labour's plan to stop the boats is working. It's just not, is it? I mean, you can see it's not working. Is he gaslighting us? Is he lying to us? Or doesn't he know? I don't know. Much still to come. Stay tuned. See you after the news.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is the second hour of this very, very eventful talk. Later on in this hour, we'll pay special tribute to our friend Rod Liddle, who has very sadly died at the age of 66 after a short illness. Tributes are pouring in. We'll play some of those and deliver our own tribute to our friend and colleague, as I said earlier. Today on Talk, I believe we have lost our greatest living journalist. I really do think Rod was the best journalist in this country. And we have lost a colossus. It's a really, really sad loss. Those of us interested in common sense, astute argument, getting rid of mad wokery, exposing useless politicians for the idiots that they are. Those of us interested in all of those endeavours have lost our greatest, most eloquent ally. That is Rod Liddle, of course. Now, we'll talk, as I say, special tribute to Rod a little later. I'll find out what my next guest thinks about his sad death as well. But first of all, let's talk to Isabel Oakeshott, our international editor, about other things. Welcome, Isabel.
Good afternoon.
Now, I want to play a little bit of what Rupert Lowe suddenly posted on social media yesterday. It was this olive branch, this offer to form a peace pact with Reform UK, Restore Britain and Reform UK, uniting the right so they can take on the forces of the left. So let's remind us, the piano player, I think, is just off screen. But here is Rupert Lowe delivering his olive branch offer of a peace deal to Reform UK yesterday.
So, Nigel, my message is simple. If you are prepared to work together around serious policies, serious reform, and serious government, then so are we. Not because it's politically convenient for Restore Britain, not because it's personally easy, but millions and millions of British people deserve a patriotic government that puts our national interest before any personal differences that you and I may have.
Well, sounds good, doesn't it? Here's Nigel Farage's response. Nigel, of course, with Zia Youssef through a press conference this morning to deal with how they would tackle our escalating migrant crisis. But Nigel Farage responded to Rupert Lowe's offer.
You could see a situation where Restore, without the hope of winning anything outside Great Yarmouth, I mean literally without a hope of winning a single seat in the country, could do us great harm. And I think online you will see a lot of Restore potential voters now beginning to worry about the impact that might have. So look, I'll finalise that by saying if it was the offer of a deal, it came in a very unusual way. I have responded to it potentially, with an open mind, as I would.
Here's the thing, Isabel, as I was explaining earlier in the show, politics in the end is about mathematics. And this potential pact is about getting enough votes to defeat the left at the general election. And at first you think, well, what a magnificent, magnanimous gesture by Rupert Lowe. And then it's an 11, 12-minute video that he makes, and then in come the clauses, the requirements that he would need to forge this inspiring pact of the right, this union of the right. And one of them, I mean, there are others we can discuss, but essentially the clauses, the requirements that Rupert Lowe has make this peace pact, I'm sorry to say it, but they make this peace pact absolutely impossible. The main clause I'm talking about is Mr. Lowe's requirement that Mr. Farage promises that none of the Tory defector politicians, Robert Jenrick, Suella Braverman, Danny Kruger and others who've crossed the House to join Farage, none of them must ever be given a cabinet position in a reform government. Now, you know, there's no way on earth Nigel Farage could ever or would ever accept that demand. So why make a peace offer and then stick in it a clause that you know means that peace pact is not going to happen? Why do you think he would do that?
Well, it's pure theatrics, Kev. Nigel Farage was quite diplomatic in that response in the press conference, but the two men can't stand each other. And that is the case for most of the other reform MPs, you know, that have worked with Rupert. They found him exceptionally difficult to work with. He may be very talented, and that is the great pity of it. You know, clearly he's done very well in building from scratch a movement that now has a substantial following. And, you know, the thing about Nigel is he's always very frank, and he said quite honestly there that Restore can do Reform a lot of damage without winning a single seat. So that goes to your point about politics is numbers from Reform's point of view. But politics is also personalities. And, you know, it doesn't matter how many chin-stroking commentators spend their time musing on the potential pact between Nigel Farage and Rupert Lowe. It's vanishingly unlikely because those two men simply don't get on. They are both, you know, they are both extremely strong-minded, and Rupert Lowe has an ego, which makes it very difficult for him to work as a subordinate to another leader. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. You know, you want to be your own leader, fine. He went and set up his own party. That's a very logical thing to do if you don't want to be a team player. But it's not the kind of personality trait that's going to lend itself to some kind of coalition. So I don't think that Rupert Lowe remotely thinks that this is going to happen. But for the sake of Restore's supporters and for the sake of people that might be tempted to vote Restore but kind of want to vote Reform but aren't sure whether Reform is hardline enough on a number of things, it definitely makes sense to at least work out are there policy areas that we can all agree on. But beyond that, I don't see some kind of merger. It's just not possible under these personalities. And certainly not if Rupert Lowe is demanding that, in effect, Nigel Farage sacks Robert Jenrick, Suella Braverman, Danny Kruger and the rest of them. I mean, that is just a non-starter. Do you think also Rupert Lowe's proposals on mass deportation, which are hardcore and all-encompassing, including women and children, children who were born here. Do you think that would be a problem for Reform UK? He's saying that that would have to be a part of the deal, that Reform would have to agree to this. Well, Nigel Farage has said very clearly that he does want and believe in mass deportation, as has Reform's Home Affairs person, Zia Youssef. He's very hard line on this stuff. So I don't think large-scale deportations on a scale which is as practical as possible. There's no point in saying we're going to deport 5 million people, even if it was desirable, which it isn't. You just wouldn't be able to do that. So you know, some things have to be led by the art of the possible. I don't think that bit of the list of demands is actually particularly the worst one by any means. You know, I listened to what Rupert Lowe said and I agreed with a lot of it, actually. Not the bit about the Tories and those characters that have done so much to widen out the Reform Party under Nigel, but certainly a lot about Christian values and restoring our borders and so on. Where I differ from him is in this death penalty thing. I've got no time for that. It's grotesque. I'm not a supporter. I don't think our country needs a referendum on that.
No, possibly not. Now, let me quickly ask you about our colleague, our friend and colleague, Rod Liddle, who we learned to our shock has died after a very short illness, age 66, very sad, wife and kid. Well, he's got 3 children, in fact. I think, you know, one of the greatest journalists of our generation, an extraordinary writer, a man with a career that beggared belief. Incredibly, he was once editor of the BBC's flagship Radio 4 news programme Today, a programme with which he has a lot of cultural differences these days, or had, but went on to become this columnist. A lot of people confused him with being a right-winger. I think he was more a kind of old-school socialist at heart, who was at his wit's end with the ludicrous stupidity of the left. He didn't think that the left were helping the working classes in any way whatsoever. But an extraordinary writer, an extraordinary range of influence. We've lost a unique journalist, I would suggest.
Yeah, I did enjoy reading his stuff. And in terms of his politics, I think he was latterly a member of the
Social Democrat Party, William Clouston.
Yeah, exactly, which is a party that never really has sort of gone from being at the margins to something that people would particularly be familiar with. But that I think points to what you're saying about him not being, you know, particularly easy to pigeonhole. You know, this wasn't somebody that was just an out and out sort of right winger. It was a little bit more nuanced than that, and he could be very acerbic. I didn't know
you can say that again.
But he came on talk quite a bit, didn't he, Kev?
Well, he was a regular on my show when I did the evening show, The Political Asylum, every Tuesday.
Yeah.
We approached Tuesdays with a sense of excitement, but also extreme trepidation as to what he might say.
As to what he might say, yeah. He never quite mastered the art of lighting or positioning.
No, he was hopeless at that. Hopeless.
Always looked like he was about to fall into his laptop.
With a huge glass of wine in the earlier day. He gave up smoking in the end, but he used to have a Marlboro and a glass of wine. He was unique, and he will be greatly missed. A great loss to The Sun, the Sunday Times and the Spectator, and to us here, and also, of course, Times Radio, where he had a show. Let me ask you what you think about the return of Diane Abbott to the Labour Party. I think this is kind of worrying. Because, you know, it was a couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, Andy Burnham gave this big speech about how Labour had got it all wrong in standing shoulder to shoulder with Labour after October the 7th, how free Palestine, you know, evil Israel and all that kind of stuff. Anti-Israel, classic Labour anti-Israel claptrap. And now he's let back in anti-Semite row MP, Diane Abbott, who's got a long history of, shall we say, controversial statements when it comes to the state of Israel and Jewish people. She's been allowed back in, has immediately started droning on about the NATO plot against Russia. So she's gone outside party policy immediately. But, you know, there seems to be this direction of travel under Burnham in terms of Israel and Jewish people that we're kind of gravitating back towards the dark old Corbyn days.
Well, I don't think the days got that much brighter under Starmer, did they? No. You know, he did nothing but pay lip service to tackling anti-Semitism. He did much more, I think, before he became Prime Minister on that front, and then it was just utter betrayal, and certainly how the Jewish community feels it. In some ways, I kind of, much as I like Andy Burnham, the worse and more lefty he becomes, I think the better in the long term. In the short term, none of it's good for our country. But people need to see who he really is. And I'm not saying he's a bad person at all. He's not a bad person. I just happen to think that all his ideas are completely wrong. And the sooner people realise that, and this Burnham bounce thing deflates, then the better. Because Britain is not going to get better overall under Andy Burnham, or at least not for most people.
Indeed. I mean, I don't think Andy Burnham's a bad person. I just think he's extremely wrong-headed about absolutely everything. And I'm astonished that people in this country can't actually, or haven't quite noticed that they've been subjected to a communist coup. This guy's a Marxist. He's an absolute Marxist. He really is. But anyway, let me quickly ask you about this. More than 1,500 convicted foreign criminals are living in taxpayer-funded asylum accommodation, HMOs, houses of multiple occupation, because they have not been deported. These are convicted criminals who should have been deported. Not only have they not been deported, they are living at our expense all over the country. 1,500 convicted foreign criminals being funded, accommodated by British taxpayers for no apparent reason. The Daily Express, to its credit, has found this out on a Freedom of Information request. Another scandal in our scandalous migrant crisis.
I mean, this stuff just drives me mad. It is absolutely ridiculous. And still, day after day, we get these immigration tribunal judges allowing foreign criminals to remain for very, very flimsy reasons. And, you know, they just play the system year in, year out. There are foreign criminals that go round and round and round with different sets of appeals. And I think we just need to completely tidy this up and say, look, you know, either you don't have any right of appeal or you've got one appeal that takes place in the next month at the most. And if that fails, you're out. Not allowing this to go circling round and round for years on end while the British taxpayer pays the price. And these people aren't in detention, you know, so they're also free to commit other crimes.
Exactly right. I mean, it's just that the migrant crisis is a scandal and a disgrace on so many levels, and we have a Prime Minister who's telling us that his government is really getting to grips with it. As I say, that's either gaslighting on an epic scale or, more accurately, just a total lie. Now, I've got to ask you this, Isabel, I hope you don't mind, but if I don't, people will say, oh, you let her off. Richard Tice, Deputy Leader of the Reform UK Party, who I believe you may know, today was announced he's under investigation by the Parliamentary Standards Watchdog. And earlier today, he was interviewed by Mark Dolan on this station, and this is what Richard had to say.
It's really important to understand, I went to Israel September last year when, sadly, the hostages were still being held in Gaza, and you know, it was my first visit to Israel. I didn't need to declare it. It was a debate about UK democracy. This is an anti-Semitic, anti-Israeli organisation that's trying to smear and discredit me, and I'm not having it.
So, yes, the accusation seems to be that when he introduced the topic of Israel as a debating subject in the House of Commons, he hadn't declared an interest, which was something to do with a recent trip he'd taken to that country. Richard's saying this is just a stitch-up. It's another stitch-up. It does seem to me that the Parliamentary Standards Office seems to be being brought into play quite a lot about reform, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I'm a bit confused about this because I think that the Standards Commission has already thrown out the investigation to which you've just referred. I think that investigation only lasted a few hours. I mean, it didn't actually happen. And I think that the so-called breaking news this morning was another investigation.
Oh, okay.
But I don't, now you've played that bit about the Israel thing, I don't want to kind of tie myself or anyone else in knots by getting this wrong. But I understand it's another thing that has been referred to the Standards Commissioner. So instead of going into detail on that, I just want to make a broad point. You know, what does any of this achieve?
Yeah.
Is the idea that Richard Tice is some kind of completely corrupt, bad person who's somehow in this for all the wrong reasons? Because if so, I don't think anyone who knows him would possibly buy into that. You know, he could be having a nice, easy life, being the property guy that he once was. You know, politics does not line his pockets, and it certainly doesn't line mine. What this is just endless party politics, and it's pathetic. It really is. It doesn't achieve anything. And, you know, the Standards Commissioner doesn't need to launch investigations into minor procedural things. It's either someone should have done it or they shouldn't. And if they should have done it, they just say, sorry, I should have done that, and correct the record. It's just point scoring, and it's so wearying is what I would say.
Yeah, it is political. It's party political game playing. Report your rivals, your opponents, to the Parliamentary Standards Office, and then you can say, oh, there's an investigation going on.
It's pathetic.
It does seem to be that way, I would agree. Listen, Isabel, great to have you on the show. Thank you very much. Great stuff from our international editor, Isabel Oakeshott there. Next up, you'll be thrilled to hear that the brothers in the Manchester airport police brawl, remember that? One of them got convicted for beating up a WPC, a female officer, smashed her nose across the face. Big, brave, tough guy beating up a little woman. That was good, wasn't it? Literally smashed her nose across her face. She had to go to hospital, broke her nose. He went to jail for that. The other brother mysteriously got off scot-free. We're not entirely sure why, but he did. Anyway, those two brothers, those Muslim brothers at Manchester Airport, famous video, of course, to cap off their story. I mean, their whole story took way too long to get round to whether or not they were going to be charged, a mysteriously long time. And then when they were charged, one of them gets away with it scot-free. One of them walked away from that scot-free. Nobody can work out why. And now we've learned that to fight their case, their defence, we taxpayers, us, we gave these brothers £113,000, 113,000 £113,000 taxpayer-funded legal aid. Isn't that special? We'll talk about that next. Stick around.
I think what he suspects is that the leadership of Reform is in trouble with all these scandals, apparent scandals over donations. Reform, nevertheless, is well known across the country. Reform as a vehicle is capable, if it has the right leadership, of actually forming a government. And that with the weakened leadership of Reform, there's a risk that Reform itself will be lost. And he doesn't want to lose the potential of a vehicle that could provide the kind of government that he and I and others wish this country to have.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to my next guest. He's former police officer Norman Brennan. Welcome, Norman.
Yeah, good afternoon, Kevin.
Well, let's talk about the now notorious, famous case of the Manchester Airport cop-beating brawl. The two brothers involved were Mohammed Fahir Amaz from Rochdale. He was convicted at Liverpool Crown Court last year of assaulting PC Lydia Ward. We remember that brave man smashed that diminutive female copper's nose all over her face. He beat a woman up. He also beat up another female copper called Ellie Cook. What a guy he is. He got 3.5 years for that. But somehow or other, he and his brother, Mohammed Ahmed, 26, were cleared of causing GBH to another officer. That's a guy called Zachary Marsden, PC Zachary Marsden. So Mohammed Ahmed, the older brother, emerged from this extraordinary video that we saw, this all-out, like, cowboy bar brawl with coppers, with these brothers pummeling coppers. The older brother emerged scot-free. Now, the icing on the rancid cake, if you like, of this long-running saga, it took way too long to even charge these two brothers because it was pretty cut and dried. You could see it from the video, and yet we waited months and months and months. They were finally charged. The whole saga has dragged on for 2 years, and finally, more than 2 years, it was 2024, in June that this punch-up happened. More than 2 years later, we learned that these two brothers, this long-running legal dispute, this long-running legal case, me and you, Norman, taxpayers all over the country, we gave these brothers £113,000 in taxpayer-funded legal aid for their lawyers to fight their case. I mean, it just seems to, as I say, you know, I understand the need for legal aid, but giving those two £113,000 to fight their case just seems like, as I said, the rancid cherry on the rotten cake of this long-running, unedifying saga. Your thoughts, Norman?
Well, I understand that it leaves a large lump in millions of people's throats, knowing that £113,000 has been given to them for legal aid. I understand that, and I'll be quite honest, I share their views, but I also understand, Kevin, that even our worst paedophiles and murderers,
yeah, they do,
even terrorists, are entitled in British law to a defence, as much as we dislike it. And of course, those types of cases to defend often cost not just tens of thousands, but hundreds of thousands of pounds. Now, just to give you another moronic decision on the same sort of subject, you may know that I'm representing and supporting ex-Dorset sacked police officer Lorne Castle.
Oh, yeah.
He arrested somebody armed with a knife. Well, 2 days after he was sacked, and I met him, he still had that ethos of protecting the public and doing the right thing, and he arrested a shoplifter, prolific shoplifter, along with other offences. Well, I can tell you now that he has to pay £30,000 for his defence barrister, and the tow rag, who's a prolific tow rag, about to be sentenced in a few weeks' time. Guess what he got, Kevin? Delayed.
You're gone.
He got legal aid.
Yeah, legal. Of course, he got paid for. Yeah, of course. This is the
right thing.
But you see, you're right, Norman. We both agree there is a need for legal aid because people can't necessarily afford the lawyers they need when charges are brought against them. But on this case, I mean, as I say, I understand these brothers are going to get legal aid, but as you quite rightly say, Norman, a lot of people, this is going to stick in their craws. It sticks in my craw, it sticks in yours. You look at that video, we all remember the video, and what I still cannot understand, Norman, is how the older brother, Mohammed Ahmed, who was on film raining punches down on PC Zachary Marsden, got off scot-free. I just don't understand it. Only one of these brothers ended up with a 3-year sentence. That's the younger brother. How could anyone walk away from that clear case of cop beating unscathed, with impunity?
I totally agree. It was it was my post that actually sent it viral in the first place. I think it got 7 million hits after we were shown a convenient clip of a video. Only 2 or 3 days later, an alleged police officer thought that's outrageous, so ensured that we saw the rest. Well, millions of people saw what you saw, what I saw. Now, I won't be too careful because I'll tell you the truth. But my personal view, I don't really worry too much about other people's views, is this, that those 2 brothers are a couple of lying scumbags. When they were arrested, they failed to answer any questions. When they were given the opportunity to give their first account, they said no reply, no reply. Now, the younger brother was rightly convicted of a number of offences, but the pair of them were acquitted of ABH on the fanciful defence of self-defence. It wasn't a brawl, it was a violent assault by 2 thugs on a number of armed police officers. And how one or the both weren't shot dead is beyond me. And the further fanciful defence of self-defence, what? You've just headbutted a member of the public in the Starbucks food hall, punched him, you're angry, you're pet up, and suddenly, and rightly so, a number of police officers come along. So you think that when they want to speak to you and they arrest you for the original offence, you think it's right to attack them. And when they said that they thought that the police were going to murder them with their guns, that wasn't them thinking. They were told to say that. They were coached to say that. And I'll be quite honest with you, Kevin, I'm like you. I'm in disbelief how they were not both.
It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. And I'll tell you what, Norman, it's a testament to those officers that they didn't reach for their guns. You know, they're British and they didn't want things to spiral out of control. And what did they get as a reward for their reserved approach to this? These 2 guys beat the hell out of them. And I'm just looking now at the video, the footage of that poor female copper who got her nose smashed across her face. It's very, very harrowing. And just to reiterate the point, how one of these brothers walked away from this scot-free, not done for a single thing, is almost beyond belief, and it's shames the British justice system, I do believe.
Well, they've left devastation, Kevin. They've left devastation as well. Both the female officers, and it's nothing to do with the sex, but one of them has thrown a firearm in, said, I never want to carry a firearm again. They both were traumatised. The officers were badly affected because they were seriously assaulted. And as I understand, PC Zachary Marsden is still under investigation, while these 2 scumbags, well, one's walking free, the other one will be soon. They are a couple of violent, out-of-control thugs, and I just cannot believe how any jury in Britain never convicted them. I don't know what went wrong. Maybe they were bamboozled by the 2 barristers that were very cute in how they worded their defence. How you can call that self-defence against police officers beyond me.
Well, I guess, Norman, £113,000 worth of legal aid buys yourself some very skillful barristers, but that was not acceptable outcome from this. Absolute disgrace. It shames the British justice system and I think puts all coppers into danger. If we're not going to protect coppers in the pursuit of their duty, then where are we? Norman, thank you so much. Always good to have you on the show. Norman Brenham there, former police officer. £113,000. One of them got off. What do you think? 0344 499 1000. Next up, Nicola Sturgeon. Not satisfied with just being a colossus of a politician, a magnificent Queen of Scotland. What a leader she was, has now transferred her tremendous skills to the world of writing. She's going to write a novel. Guess what it's about? It's about a female political leader with a dark secret. I wonder what sort of dark secret it would be. Could it be maybe a husband with a penchant for nicking money and buying stupid stuff? I don't know. Who knows what that dark secret is? But we'll try to find out. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about Nicola Sturgeon. As I say, she's transferred her considerable talents from the world of politics to the world of literature. She's writing her first novel. It's about a female first minister nurturing a dark secret. Wonder where she got that idea from. Let's talk to political commentator Benedict Spence. Welcome, Benedict. I mean, you could almost not make this up. This is Nicola Sturgeon says she's writing a novel, and to intrigue us, she says it's going to be all about a prominent female politician with a dark secret. As I said, what kind of dark secret do you think that might be? That she's got a husband with a penchant for nicking hundreds of thousands of pounds and spending it on motorhomes and Jaguars and loads of tat to fill their house or something like that? Do you think it's that kind of dark secret? She says that this will show people how the corridors of power really work. Well, late in life, it sounds as if Nicola Sturgeon might be embracing a concept that until now has been alien to her: transparency.
I mean, we wait and see what's actually in the novel. Although I say that, I have no intention of reading it, and I don't think you do either. Yes. So perhaps we don't.
Certainly not.
If somebody is brave enough when it comes out to read it and give us the gist of it, I mean, by all means, if you want to. But what I would say is that this demonstrates, perhaps not unexpectedly, a remarkable lack of imagination from Nicola Sturgeon, because her first novel, coming hot on the heels of her autobiography, is effectively semi-autobiographical. Even though she says it's not, I think it's kind of obvious even to the slowest among us. And, I'm not always the sharpest off the mark, but a former female first minister, writing a novel about a female first minister who
with a dark secret.
Yeah. It just sort of sounds like, I wonder where she got that idea from. A real spur of genius. One night she sat up in bed and thought, first and foremost, where's my husband? And second of all, I've got a brilliant idea for a novel.
Yeah, where is that Peter Murrell guy that I used to be married to? Never seems to be here anymore. She's become a strange sort of spectacle, Nicola Sturgeon, hasn't she? I mean, she's moved down to London for a new life, sees herself as being part of the commentariat now, an elder stateswoman with so much wisdom to impart to the eager masses and so on and so forth. But her problem is you know, she's never really levelled with us, has she? She hasn't levelled with us as to why she didn't say anything to the coppers when they interviewed her for 10 hours about what she allegedly may or may not have known about the masses of money her husband was stealing from her party, the Scottish National Party, and what all the tat he was filling their house with that she insisted she didn't notice. Nobody believes her. And when it emerged that when she was interviewed by Police Scotland for 10 hours, all she said to every single question was no comment, she still hasn't fully explained why she took that approach. She says, well, I gave them a written statement. So we say, well, tell us what was in the written statement, or publish the written statement. She won't do that. You know, in terms of a former female First Minister hiding a dark secret, I think we have to the right to ask the question, is Nicola Sturgeon living that in real life? Is she, a former First Minister, hiding a dark secret that she just won't tell us?
Yeah, hiding in plain sight. I mean, yeah, as I say, you know, I can't imagine that she has the imagination to come up with something original. So I would assume that there will be ever so slightly a grain of truth in whatever it is that she writes. Although I would also assume that she's getting a ghostwriter to try and make it slightly more palatable. But it sort of reminds me of when O.J. Simpson was acquitted of the murder of his wife and his friend. Of her friend, sorry. And then later on, having denied that he ever did it, wrote a book saying, well, I didn't do it, but if I had, this might be how I would come out. And it's sort of like that.
You're right, yeah.
Isn't it?
That's a good analogy. It's a good analogy. I mean, she I think also, Miss Sturgeon, because she enjoyed, what was it, a decade or something, of sort of almost supreme power in Scotland, where no one ever questioned her massive authority up there. She kind of gained a bit of a kind of messiah complex. She can do no wrong. But it doesn't wash now she's in the real world. Now she's no longer Nicola, Queen of Scots. We have lots and lots of questions about her. And frankly, she'll hate this. But people look at her and think, that woman's dodgy. That's her problem, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think I mean, it's funny you say now that she lives in the real world. You mean now that she's moved out of Scotland down to England?
Moved to London, yeah.
It's funny that, isn't it? An avowed lifelong Scottish nationalist. The first opportunity she gets, she goes straight to the colonial capital that imposes itself on her people to get on the gravy train. I mean, fair enough. We've all done it. But, honestly, she is trying to reinvent herself, as you say. Her reputation has been tarnished. I know that the media in Westminster gave her an easy ride over things like Brexit and COVID. They loved the fact that she just liked showing up the government, even though it didn't make a lot of sort of sense what she was doing at the time. They loved that she was getting one over on Boris all the time. So they were prepared to give her a lot of slack, I think, when and where they paid attention to her. But as you say, broadly speaking, people don't particularly like her. They don't particularly trust her. So she's trying to do... Well, I suppose she's trying to do the Alistair Campbell thing. She's going to come down here, she's going to become a media personality and hope that all will be forgiven. It has worked well for Alistair Campbell. People have forgotten all about the war, so maybe this will happen for Nicola Sturgeon as well.
Yeah, I can't help feeling that in the great scheme of things, Alistair Campbell, old friend of mine, by the way, might be just a little bit more clever than Nicola Sturgeon. Talking of very clever people, really good to have you on the show, Benedict, as always. Benedict Spence, their political commentator. Are you going to go and buy Nicola Sturgeon's book? I wonder what she could call it. I was trying to think of something very witty, but characteristically I couldn't come up with anything. Can you think of what she ought to call her book? What should Nicola Sturgeon call her first novel, her debut novel, which is about a female First Minister with a dark secret? What should Nicola call her book? What do you think? Let me know. 03444 99 1000. You can send us a WhatsApp message or WhatsApp voice note if you like, or you can just send us a normal text. Write talk at the beginning of your message and send it to us, and we'll see if we can come up with any good titles. I'll see if I can think of any good titles. So far, I haven't come up with anything, but that's not unusual. Listen, we're going to go to break now. And when we come back, usually we take your calls, but what we're going to do, because today it's a very sad day, we're going to pay tribute to my friend and colleague Rod Liddle, who was one of my favourite guests of all time. Almost not in a good way. You never knew what was going to happen with Rod, but it was never dull, I'll tell you that. So we will talk to David Wooding, his fellow columnist on the Sun newspaper, former Fleet Street editor. We'll go through Rod's remarkable career, give you some tributes coming in from people all over the world, actually, right now. And just generally remember our good friend and colleague, the remarkable, the one and only, the unique Rod Liddle. That next. Stay tuned.
I think what he suspects is that the leadership of Reform is in trouble with all these scandals, apparent scandals over donations. Reform, nevertheless, is well known across the country. Reform as a vehicle is capable, if it has the right leadership, of actually forming a government. And that with the weakened leadership of Reform, there's a risk that Reform itself will be lost. And he doesn't want to lose the potential of a vehicle that could provide the kind of government that he and I and others wish this country to have.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're going to pay a tribute to our old friend and colleague Rod Liddle now. Let's welcome his fellow columnist on the Sun newspaper, former Fleet Street editor as well, David Wooding. Hello, David.
Good evening, Kevin.
Good to have you on the show, mate. Well, listen, before we talk about our old colleague, the remarkable, the unique Mr. Liddle, this is Rod appearing on my show. For a year or so, we approached every Sunday night, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. with a sense of excitement and trepidation, because you never quite knew what he was going to say, whether or not it would even be legally acceptable. But here he is with one of his classic appearances on my show on the political asylum. A warm welcome to a prolific columnist, Rod Liddle.
Sausages.
Yeah, that's what I was... Hang on a second.
Sausages.
We've got it all lined up.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
He's got to get this sort of thing right. Not only did he get the word wrong, he got it hysterically wrong. Hostages,
it's still
sausages.
Funny.
It is funny. I'm not saying it's not. But, I mean, what's wrong with him? Why can't he get anything right?
Because there's no depth there, I think. I don't think he believes in anything. And I think they're just words. And any word, as Jacques Derrida once famously commented, that there is no one-to-one relationship between a word and its meaning. So for secure hostages could easily double as sausages when the need comes. There's no depth to it. It's just the recitation of platitudes.
See, such a way with words. Also, Dave, this is Rod appearing on Question Time during, I think it was during the Corbyn period of Labour's dark history.
I really wish that the people who were taken in by that and agreed with that would look to the left away from the podium and see the rabble with their Palestinian flags and their lanyards sponsored by Hamas, would look to the raft of hypocrites, the raft of hypocrites on the Labour front bench, Thornbury, Abbott, Chakrabarti, all of whom don't want you to send your kids to private school or to selective schools, but do so for their kids. And for Corbyn and McDonnell, who have given support and succour to every possible hostile, violent, anti-democratic, terrorist regime or organisation they can. IRA, Hamas, Hezbollah, Soviet Union, Cuba, Venezuela. If you want people like that running your country, vote for Corbyn.
He was magnificent, wasn't he?
Oh, yes.
Just amazing, amazing.
You know, to have that level of thought, to be able to express it in such a powerful way, and not to be afraid when you've got a hostile panel alongside you and an audience there who may be, some of whom may be tilting in the opposite direction. It takes some power of mind and also nerve.
Yeah, exactly right. Listen, bear with me, Dave. I want to run through some of the tributes that have been pouring in, the important ones. The most important is from his children, Wilder, Tyler and Emmy, who've issued a statement saying, "We are all very saddened and shocked at the sudden passing of our wonderful father. He raised us much as you might imagine, to be inquisitive, brave and always humorous. Even in hospital in the last few weeks, he consistently held the room and never let the awful situation show. He has left a legacy that we are all incredibly proud of. He will always be our guide on how to live an extraordinary life." Rebecca Brooks, she is the Chief Executive of News UK. That's the company that owns this station and, of course, the Sunday Times, for whom Rod wrote, plus, of course, Times Radio, for whom he presented a show, and, of course, The Sun, which is also part of this company. Rebecca Brooks said, "Everyone at News UK is deeply shocked and saddened to learn of the sudden death of Rod Liddle. Rod was an inimitable journalistic force, brilliant, provocative and immensely talented, whose sharp wit and uncompromising voice graced our pages and airways for decades. Whether writing for the Sunday Times and the Sun or broadcasting on Times Radio, he challenged conventional thinking and left an indelible mark on British journalism. Rob will be greatly missed by all his friends and colleagues at News, as well as by his many readers, listeners and viewers. Our thoughts and sincerest condolences are with his family." And finally, this is Dave from the News Corps Chief Executive, the international Chief Executive of this company, Robert Thompson. Robert Thompson said, "Rod was puckishly profound and profoundly puckish. We were determined back in 2003 that he should bring his intellectual energy and lateral wit to the Times, and his wisdom and whimsy have echoed around our company and the world ever since. Rod's resonance will surely echo for many, many years to come." Finally, a couple of, this is from Ben Taylor, editor of the Sunday Times, where he wrote a brilliant weekly column. "Rod Liddle had a wonderful way with words and used his unique talent to speak for the readers, highlighting the cant and absurdity that bedevils modern life. He was also supremely entertaining, and for years his column was the first that many turn to every Sunday. We will miss him desperately. Very true. First thing I turn to in the Sunday Times every week. Victoria Newton, editor-in-chief of The Sun newspaper, said Rod was a brilliant, fearless columnist who was much loved by all at The Sun, a champion of press freedom. No topic was off limit, and his writing, as funny as it was excoriating, was simply exceptional. A terrific observer of the frailties of our political class, he will be remembered for his razor-sharp wit and his huge intellect. But on the Sun floor, he will also be remembered for his warmth and humour and for the belly laughs we had at his wildly entertaining lunches and dinners where he would hold court. He will be hugely missed by the Sun staff and by his many, many loyal readers, and he will be hugely missed here on Talk Dave, where he was a regular, particularly on my show in the evening. But all those lovely tributes summing up what an exceptional and brilliantly talented journalist Rod Liddle was.
Absolutely, and it's the versatility, Kevin, the versatility to appear and write on different channels, Times Radio and Talk TV, two completely different animals, and to write for The Sun and then for the Sunday Times, probably within 24 hours of each other most weeks, and then a weekly column for The Spectator. All different beasts with different styles, with different audiences, and yet he found a way of getting fans for them all, from all those outlets. Also, of course, we never really knew what he was. He was such you could never predict what he would stand for on any given subject, because he wasn't afraid to say something which was not in line with what his perceived political viewpoint was. I mean, for instance, he started on a local paper in South Wales and then went to work for the Labour Party as a speechwriter and worked on the Today programme.
He was the editor of the Today
programme from 1998 to 2002, I think it was. Yeah. He was in the Socialist Workers' Party at one stage, and on the campaign for nuclear disarmament, and yet he writes some material which actually blows Labour and the left out of the water. So he's not afraid to be in one camp and fire shots at people in the same camp. I mean, he famously at the Today programme hired Andrew Gilligan, the reporter who exposed the sexed up dossier about the arms in Iraq. Which created all sorts of havoc for the Labour Party, the government at the time, Alistair Campbell, who you just mentioned earlier, and Tony Blair. So yes, a man you can't really pick what he's going to do next. You couldn't
pigeonhole him, but a lot of people on the left made the mistake of thinking he was a right winger. He wasn't. Constitutionally, he was a left winger. He was an old school socialist. What infuriated him was the left's incompetence, their failure to adhere to any form of common sense. He thought they were letting the working classes down. But I think we've lost, Dave, the greatest journalist of our generation, as simple as that.
Oh, absolutely. He was a one-off, and as Victoria Newton said in her tribute, great colleague to be among. He was amazing company personally, as well as an amazing performer. Dave, thank you very much. Dave Wooding there, columnist on The Sun.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In a little while, we'll go over live to Los Angeles to talk to our royal guru, Kinsey Schofield, for all the latest news from Planet Harry and Meghan. Harry going gangbusters to try to effect this kind of public reunion between him and his dad, the King. He wants King Charles to be at the opening of the Invictus Games in Birmingham next year. Good luck with that. I don't think that's going to happen. That's what Harry wants. Meanwhile, more and more talk that all might not be well behind the gilded gates of the gruesome twosome's Montecito mansion. That cash crises may be rearing their ugly head. We'll talk about all of that with Kinsey in just a little while. But first, let's talk to the Director of Popular Conservatism, Mark Littlewood. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Kev. Good to be with you. Good evening.
Always a pleasure. Now, we need to talk about what Rupert Lowe did yesterday, out of the blue. There I am, scrolling through social media, as I tend to do on a Sunday morning. Pathetic, really, isn't it, for a man of my age? But that's what I do. And there, all of a sudden, boom, there's Restore Britain's leader, Rupert Lowe, with an 12-minute video outlining his proposals for a peace pact between Restore Britain and Reform UK. In other words, uniting the right. So far, so good. You know, I like the idea of uniting the right because clearly, as I said earlier in the show, politics is a mathematical game. You need the numbers, and it looks as if Reform won't get the required numbers to beat the left at the next election unless they form some kind of a pact. So far, so good. But then you start to analyse what Rupert Lowe would require were Nigel Farage to take his olive branch. And frankly, the terms are just impossible. So at that point, you start saying, well, why has Rupert Lowe done this? You know, so it's good. Well, first of all, let's remind ourselves of Rupert Lowe. So I'm going to play you a little clip. I'm sorry, the piano player is just out of shot, but here is Rupert Lowe with his peace pact proposal.
So, Nigel, my message is simple. If you are prepared to work together around serious policies, serious reform, and serious government, then so are we. Not because it's politically convenient for Restore Britain, not because it's personally easy, but millions and millions of British people deserve a patriotic government that puts our national interest before any personal differences that you and I may have.
Who couldn't accept that wonderful offer? Except for, he then goes on to outline or to list his requirements for this deal. Mass deportation of illegal migrants, including women and children. Well, Reform would sort of get their head around that, but if you look at the details of what he's saying, I think Nigel Farage might have problems with some of it. It's not very mainstream, put it that way. Tougher rules on legal migration, ban on halal and kosher slaughter, the burqa, cousin marriage and Sharia courts. I think Reform UK could definitely dance to that tune. A referendum on the death penalty, why not? No big deal. So, yeah, I think they could assimilate that proposal. Welfare cuts to fund self-sufficiency, of course, 100%. But here comes the doozy. The exclusion of former Tory ministers from any future cabinet. So, should Reform UK achieve power, according to on the basis of a peace pact with Rupert Lowe, with Restore Britain, Nigel Farage would have to agree not to appoint any of his former Tory colleagues, Tory politicians, to positions of power. So we're talking about Treasury spokesman Robert Jenrick, Home Office spokeswoman Suella Braverman, Danny Kruger, very big noise. All of these people, Restore, or rather Rupert Lowe is saying to Nigel Farage, well, if we do a deal, you've got to essentially sack them. You can't give them a position in government. Well, there's no way in 100 years, in a month of Sundays, Nigel Farage is going to accept that, and Rupert Lowe knows it. So why is he making this, you know, heartfelt, you know, tear-stained offer, let's get together, unite the right, and then puts in a clause that he knows full well Nigel Farage can never accept? What's he playing at?
Yeah, it's really interesting, Kevin. I mean, in that clip you just played of Rupert Lowe, I would applaud all of those sentiments, but I would sum up the totality of his 12-minute broadcast as basically being very welcome but very weird. So usually, if you're trying to reach an agreement, I mean, not just in politics, but you know, in any kind of rivalry, I think you've got to start from a zone of possible agreement, not by listing your absolutely unbendable red lines, which is how Rupert Lowe described this. I mean, you mentioned on capital punishment, Kev. Yeah, he calls for a referendum. But I think, unless I misunderstood him, he also calls for the death penalty to be retrospectively applied to a number of prisoners who've already been convicted with sort of life imprisonment orders. That's quite a big ask. And obviously the stumbling block around the Conservatives here. So if Rupert Lowe had sort of said, look, Nigel, I think there is quite a lot of agreement between Restore and Reform, quite a big overlap on the Venn diagram. We agree on a lot. Generally about immigration. We might have some differences over crime and punishment. I also have some worries about how close you're getting to some ex-senior Conservatives, but let's sit down and thrash it out. That would have been a much better opening gambit than announcing unilaterally, without warning to Reform, I'm going to lay down my red lines now. These are, Rupert Lowe says, non-negotiables. So if Farage were to say, you know what, I quite fancy Suella Braverman being my education secretary, that's it, according to Rupert Lowe, negotiations are over. So he would have been a million times better to start with the 3 or 4 areas where he thinks there is strong alignment, possibly to highlight areas that he thinks might be difficult to negotiate. But he didn't highlight those areas. He framed them as red lines. So that makes it very, very difficult for, I think, serious negotiations to proceed.
As a cleverer man than me said to me yesterday about this, he said, well, what Rupert Lowe's doing here is he's listed these requirements, which are things like mass deportation, including women and children and so on and so forth, plus the Tory thing and, you know, referendum on a death penalty. So he's put down those demands. So my friend said, well, what he's doing is he's put Farage into a position where if he turns them down, Farage is going to look like a Lib Dem. And he won't like that. Let's just have a quick look at, shall we call this Nigel Farage's very diplomatic response this morning?
You could see a situation where Restore, without the hope of winning anything outside Great Yarmouth, I mean literally without a hope of winning a single seat in the country, could do us great harm. And I think online you will see a lot of Restore potential voters now beginning to worry about the impact that might have. So look, I'll finalise that by saying if it was the offer of a deal, it came in a very unusual way. I have responded to it potentially, you know, with an open mind, as I would.
Well, I had Orla Minahan on earlier from Restore Britain. It's a very sort of powerful defender of Rupert Lowe. I like Orla, but we sort of clashed on this because I said, you know, he's playing games here. And I knew a lot of my audience, they've got a lot of sympathy with some of the policies that Rupert Lowe wants to pursue, and they sort of like him as a guy. So when I started to say, well, what the hell is this guy playing at, I anticipated that I'd get a switchboard full of antipathy from people telling me, yeah, you leave Rupert alone. No, none of it. These are reform supporters who, every single one of them, are coming down on Rupert Lowe, saying, what's he playing at? Why does he think he has the right to dictate to Nigel Farage who might be in his cabinet? In other words, the consensus is that Rupert Lowe is playing games. They don't understand why he's done that, and they think he has deliberately tried to back Nigel Farage into a difficult, awkward corner.
Yep. I think that is a fair point of view. However, I always assume the best of motives in people. It probably is why I get stitched up all the time, Kev. I always assume people are straightforward and honest.
I take the opposite approach.
So I'm going to assume Rupert Lowe, who I've met a couple of times and is an extraordinarily impressive bloke.
Oh yeah.
Basically means this. But there's one interpretation, I suppose, that could be right, the one that you just imply there, that he is actually highlighting areas of difference between reform and restore. And we might now be in the slightly weird position that we've kind of flipped the coin. It used to be back in the day, Nigel Farage's role in politics was to pop up like a jack in a box and try and get the Conservatives to, if you like, shift to the right or take a more robust position, and sort of threatening them and cajoling them and peeling off voters from them if the Tories got too wet. Weirdly, Nigel Farage now finds himself slightly in that position himself, that he's outflanked on his right flank by Rupert Lowe, who is sort of saying, well, why don't you get tougher on this? Why don't you get clearer on that? Whether it's the deportation of women and children or executing Axel Ruder-Cabana or whatever else. And it's difficult for Farage to respond to that because Reform find themselves in a position. OK, their opinion poll numbers have dipped a little bit in recent months, from maybe 30% to about 25%, and they've got a number of issues about the ongoing investigations into various finances. Nevertheless, Farage has got to make the calculation, hasn't he, that if he wants to win the next election, and if he wants to, even if you like, not just take a chance, but to really try and get 35 to 40% of the vote, he's got to find 10% of the vote from somewhere. And Rupert Lowe and Restore may only be a small chunk of that. What are they averaging in the polls?
Well, they got 8.9% in the Manchester mayoral election, which was above the Tories. Had the Restore Britain vote and the Reform UK vote being unified, they might have given Labour a close run for their money.
Yeah, well, that's true, although you get preferential voting there as well, don't you? So when you knock Restore out, you can switch your vote second preference to Reform. But nevertheless, I mean, I'm not trying to diminish Restore, as, it's impressive to set up a political party and to register in the opinion polls within your first year of existence. And by all accounts, they've got quite a chunk of activists. So you might take the view that although it could end up not being decisive, if you could somehow unite the Restore and Reform vote under our first past the post system, if you could have Reform activists and Restore activists pulling in the same direction rather than throwing brickbats at each other on Twitter and sort of swearing at each other when they cross each other in the streets, canvassing in the Greater Manchester mayoral election or elsewhere, perhaps that is the difference between winning and losing. So you've got to build a unite the right base. But I think if I was to offer some friendly advice to Nigel Farage, I think he's responded in a relatively gentlemanly fashion. Rupert Lowe, I think, has criticised him for saying that Nigel said that he would speak to, or he wanted to ask Rupert Lowe for a phone call, but there's some dispute about what the text message actually said. But nevertheless, they've got to sit down around a table, haven't they, and see if there is actually a zone of possible agreement. Because I think you'd have to say, as you were saying right at the top of the show, Kev, look, it's going to be difficult for Reform to win a general election outright. Not impossible, but you'd say the odds are somewhat stacked against that. So Nigel Farage is absolutely right to say he's obviously got to look beyond his own present base for allies if he's serious about winning. And those who are presently following Rupert Lowe could be a part of that. But it would be generally better, wouldn't it, if these red line negotiations were happening in private, not public, that there wasn't, spats about who had said what in what text message. So whether this is going to go anywhere at all, I don't know. But the more the right is divided, the more likely we will get another left-wing government, possibly a worse one than this, if it's some sort of rainbow coalition propped up by Zach Polanski and the Scottish nationalists. Yeah. And I think it's incumbent on all people, whatever kind of shade of blue you are on the right of the spectrum, to try and navigate a way around that, but probably initially in private rather than in public.
Do you think Kemi Badenoch might entertain the concept of coming together, a uniting of the right with Restore Britain and Reform UK? A lot of my audience, a lot of Reform and Restore Britain supporters saying we don't want anything to do with the Tories. They're the ones who, over 14 years of left-wing pretend Tory government, gave us the migrant crisis. They caused this crisis. Labour have made it worse, but it was the Tories that gave us, and I know this, the mood to forgive the Tories for this is not there. It isn't there. People do not want to forgive them. Could the Tories be a part of this? Would Kemi want to be a part of it?
Yeah, two slightly different questions there, Kev. I mean, I think that the Conservatives, who've ticked up somewhat under Kemi Badenoch, and her personal ratings have certainly zoomed up enormously in recent months, right? She is unambiguously the most popular leader on the right of centre of British politics, but you're right to say the Conservative brand is to some degree contaminated. Look, they're still at sort of 20% or so in the polls. The Conservative Party's not disappeared. Indeed, its support has ticked up. But I think probably one thing under her leadership that hasn't happened yet is not so much an apology for the 14 years of Conservative office, but an explanation for it. Unless you can explain why things went so badly wrong, why after 14 years of Conservative-led government, the country didn't become conservative, more conservative in any way whatsoever. In fact, it drifted to the left over those 14 years. You need an explanation for that. And so far, Kemi Badenoch has alighted on, we're under new management, things have changed. Well, you might believe those reassurances or you might not. So I think she's got to do a bit more to formally remove the wets from the Conservative Party, but also to find an explanation of what went wrong. And I think that explanation was the Conservatives didn't change the foundations of how government machinery works here. So they were trying to navigate their way around the European Convention of Human Rights, the Human Rights Act, the Equality Act, the Constitutional Reform and Governance Act. And you can't navigate your way around those things, and they didn't have the guts to repeal them. If Kemi were to come forward and say, we totally failed, we tried to basically steer a train, but it was on left-wing tracks, then she might be getting somewhere, because the Conservatives remain a measurable force in the opinion polls. OK, historically at a low ebb, but they haven't dwindled away to nothing. In fact, there's been an uptick in their support. And what frustrates me, Kev, I don't know about you or talk viewers and listeners, if you were to actually look at the principle, the broad brush propositions being put forward by Kemi Badenoch as leader of the Tories, Nigel Farage as leader of Reform, and Rupert Lowe as leader of Restore, OK, there are differences. I'm not going to deny that. But the broad thrust, the broad picture, the picture they've painted on the canvas is basically pretty similar. Get out of the international treaties that mean we can't get immigration under control, abandon carbon net zero, get spending under control, tax is too high, regulation is too tight. There'll be a lot of disagreements within that, but the disagreements between those three party leaders are often nothing like as wide as the disagreements you would have within a single mainstream political party. So if those three parties start to coalesce around a broad consensus, even if you could list half a dozen or a dozen differences between them, if they actually end up in the same sort of ideological position, my hope would be that they would be willing to work together, whatever their personal differences, whatever the history of jealousies and rivalries between them, because the ultimate goal here is not what shade of blue forms the next government, but that it isn't a shade of red, or even worse, all of the shades of the rainbow, because we're going to have 3 more years of left-wing government. I think the country can survive that. but I'm not totally sure it can survive another 8 if the left wing were to win the next election.
Yeah, I think that Andy Burnham may seal Labour's fate. People don't know it yet, but I reckon he will. He's going down a very dark alley, and it isn't going to end well. I'm certain of that. Mark, great to have you on the show, as always. Thank you so much, mate. That's Mark Littlewood, Director of Popular Conservatism there. Would you, if you're of the right, you know, we have to accept mathematically some kind of unite the right operation has to happen if the right are to stand a chance of defeating the left at the next election. In a united front, an alliance, a pact, if you like, of Restore Britain and Reform UK, would you accept the Tories as well? Would you be prepared to forgive the Conservatives for the migrant crisis that they were so kind to foist upon an unsuspecting nation? Let me know. 03444991000. We're going to take calls after this break, so get on the phone. Let's talk. You also might want to talk about the migrant crisis. Andy Burnham went down to the White Cliffs of Dover yesterday to assure us Labour's plan to stop the boats was working. It's not working. More than 2,000 migrants have crossed their channel since he became Prime Minister, and rising. He's just lying to us. What do you reckon of that? 03444991000. Why is this guy lying to us about the migrant crisis, do you think? 03444991000. Give me a call. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk. Back after these messages. Stay where you are.
I think what he suspects is that the leadership of Reform is in trouble with all these scandals, apparent scandals over donations. Reform, nevertheless, is well known across the country. Reform as a vehicle is capable, if it has the right leadership, of actually forming a government. And that with the weakened leadership of Reform, there's a risk that Reform itself will be lost. And he doesn't want to lose the potential of a vehicle that could provide the kind of government that he and I and others wish this country to have.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're going to go to the phones in just a second to give you a few Nicola Sturgeon novel titles. A few people have sent them in. Dave suggests, he said, did she come to London in her motorhome? No, Dave, she's never seen it, apparently. In fact, Dave suggests that Nicola Sturgeon's debut novel should be called I Didn't See It. Steve suggests she should call her book The Caviar Queen. And Ian says, why did she call it There's Something Fishy About Me? So the title's rolling in for Nicola Sturgeon's debut novel. I didn't see it. I like that one. If you've got any other ideas, let me know. 03444991000. Send me a text or a WhatsApp voice note. Or you can ring in if you like. Shall we go to the phones? Let's talk to Herbie in Harrow. Hi, Herbie.
Good afternoon, Kevin. How are you this afternoon?
I'm OK. What do you make of Rupert Lowe's offer of a peace pact to reform?
Kevin, the problem is that the country's in a state, and so the political parties in the state. They don't know which way to go, where to go, who to go for, and whatever. And the public are so confused as well, they don't know who to vote for. You know, it's as simple as that. It's becoming a nightmare. We've got to make change somewhere down the line, even if it's for one term only, to show that we need and mean business to get this country back on its feet again and back into prosperity.
Well, given, Herbie, I assume you've probably watched the 11, 12-minute video that Rupert Lowe put onto social media yesterday. You've seen that. Well, if he genuinely wants a pact, Unite the Right pact, he's put in there at least one clause that he knows full well Farage cannot accept. And that clause is, should Reform become a government, Nigel Farage has to agree that none of the Tory defectors, Robert Jenrick, Suella Braverman, Danny Kruger and others, are ever made cabinet secretaries. Well, there's no way Farage would accept that or will accept that. So why do you think Restore Britain's Rupert Lowe is offering this deal and putting in clauses, requirements that he knows will scupper the deal?
Well, the problem is, though, Kevin, is what is the hidden agenda behind all this? What is the reason behind this? All of a sudden, he's come up with this idea.
That's my point.
What is it? What is it? What is behind it all?
It doesn't. My point, Herbie, is, and tell me what you think, but it doesn't really seem to me, unless he's really got a spirit of compromise, which I don't think he is, it doesn't seem to me to be a genuine peace office, that he doesn't seem to have a genuine desire to forge this peace pact, because he's put clauses in that he will require that he knows Farage is going to say no to. So why do you think he's doing it?
I wish I knew. I really wish I was in his mind there to see what his game is. You know, it's a gameplay here, definitely.
It's a game, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think so. He knows that at the moment Reform are sliding down a little bit because of other things that are going on, and perhaps he's making hay for the sunshines of the reputation not being so prominent as it was before. And I think that he's playing a very dangerous game personally, I really do, because his voters are inclined to split the vote again, you see, that's the problem.
Yeah, I agree. I'm afraid it looked kind of encouraging, but I'm afraid it's already kind of come to nothing, although Nigel Farage has said he's willing to talk. But he won't be willing to be ordered around by... As Pauline, I've got this text here. For example, I've had a lot of texts from the audience today, Herbie. Rupert Lowe is not in a position to dictate to Reform who should be given a cabinet position. He's not, is he?
So he's a leader of his own party, but he's got no technically MPs himself. Only himself as an independent. So he's got nobody there with any clout that he can actually negotiate with. I don't know what he's... I really wish I knew what was behind it.
Well, I think I've got an idea. You know, Nigel Farage and Rupert Lowe can't stand each other. It's handbags at dawn with those two, 24/7. I suspect that Rupert Lowe has offered this peace deal deliberately to sort of embarrass Nigel Farage. Because if Nigel Farage turns it down, he looks like some kind of Lib Dem. But there are clauses in there that I think Nigel Farage cannot possibly accept. And Rupert Lowe knows it. So we've got a bit of political game playing going on here, and I don't think the country needs that right now, Herbie. But good call from you, as always. Great to talk to you, mate. Herbie in Harrow there. Next up, we're going to talk to Kinsey Schofield about the latest goings-on Planet Meghan and Harry and the rest of the royal family. But after that, after Kinsey, we're going to take your calls. 03444991000. Do get in touch. Let me know what you think Rupert Lowe is playing at. Does he genuinely want a peace deal? If so, why is he putting clauses in that he knows Nigel Farage cannot and will not accept? What's going on here, do you think? 03444991000. Also, get on the phone. Let me know what you think about our Prime Minister Andy Burnham going to the White Cliffs of Dover and assuring us that Labour's plan to stop the boats is working. It's not. You could almost see the boats in the background while he's saying, yeah, we're working, we're getting the numbers down. No, no, no. It's bad. 750 on one day last week. Saturday, more than 350, I think. Huge numbers coming across since this guy became Prime Minister only 2 weeks ago. So how can he tell us that they're stopping the boats, that their plan to stop the boats is working? It's not working, is it? Why is he telling us this? Why is he lying to us? 03444991000. Get on the phone. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk. Also, you might want to give me a call about Oxfordshire County Council spending locals' money, their council tax money, going to court, to the High Court, to take out an injunction to ban locals from flying the Union Jack or the St George's flag. What's that all about? 03444991000. We'll take in your calls after our next item, which will be Kinsey Schofield live from the West Coast. We're going to talk about the latest happenings on Planet Harry and Meghan, so stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
By the way, you want to give me a call about this as well. Morrison's, the supermarket, has won this year's early Christmas prize, selling advent calendars in July. So you can go into Morrison's and buy an advent calendar, July. Happy Christmas, everybody. 03444991000. It's unbelievable, isn't it? Right, let's go over to my next guest. She is the inimitable Kinsey Schofield. She's the host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. She's over there in Los Angeles. Welcome to the show, Kins.
Are we going to sing happy birthday to Meghan Markle, which is tomorrow, big number 45, or did you not want to give her that?
Well, that's why I got you on the show, because I wanted us to deliver a rousing chorus, a rendition of Happy Birthday, Meghan. 45, eh? Well, perhaps we'll talk about her in a little while. I suppose she is involved in this. But Prince Harry's sort of ongoing obsession with healing the royal rift, the central raft of that seems to be to persuade his dad, the King Charles, to be with him at the opening of the Invictus Games next year in Birmingham, here in Britain, in the second city of Britain. Now, Harry would regard that as a triumph. Here we are, the pictorial symbol of the fact that the ongoing feud between the Sussexes and the rest of the royal family here in Britain is over. However, I don't think this cherished dream of Harry is likely to happen because there's so much going on behind the scenes, mainly Prince William and Catherine, his wife, the Prince and Princess of Wales, who are not in a mood to forgive Harry and Meghan. Harry, especially for his horrible, spiteful book Spare, in which he called the royal family racists and just revealed all these really intimate family secrets that should be kept secret. Not forgetting, of course, the interview that Harry and Meghan did with Oprah, where they called the royals racist. They called all of us racist, actually, in this country. He seems to think that all of that can be forgotten at a stroke. The king wants to forget it because, it's still his son, and also he loves his grandchildren and wants to see them more. But all around him, the king is being told, sorry, you cannot just let this guy back into the fold. William doesn't want it, Catherine doesn't want it, Camilla doesn't want it, Edward doesn't want it, Anne doesn't want it. Harry's dream of getting together with the king, healing the rift, is just that. It's an impossible dream, isn't it, Kinsey?
Well, I think that there are two things going on. I do think Prince Harry desperately misses his life in the UK. He's lonely in the States. He has no purpose here. He's not acknowledged. If he was Prince Harry, Princess Diana's son, rocking and rolling around the United States of America, doing $500,000 lectures left and right, I don't think he'd be crawling back to daddy. But the reality is the American dream hasn't worked out. Harry needs that royal proximity to stay relevant. And so, yes, in reuniting with his father somehow and making nice, it gives him some credibility that he can bring back to the United States. Two, Invictus is fed up. Invictus is like Senabale, done with the antics that Harry and Meghan always bring to the table, the circus that rolls into town with the Harry and Meghan show, whether it's the Buckingham Palace back and forth that Invictus had to clean up and deal with during Harry's trip to the UK to promote Invictus last month, or the what we saw with the Harry, the Will They Won't They Highgrove meeting. It's just, and then Harry releasing that devastating statement, tearing into the King's Court. He continuously puts Invictus in a difficult position. And Dr. Sophie Shandaka, she was so fed up, she's suing him for defamation, which is the next court case we get to look forward to in the discovery between WhatsApp messages, emails, and things that Harry put out between him, his team, and potentially Meghan. So Invictus has said, we need your father there. We want your father there. And this is unfortunately a really difficult position for King Charles. As monarch, he is the commander-in-chief of the British Armed Forces. Service personnel swear their oath of allegiance to the king, to the crown. So that makes his presence at the event, honoring wounded and recovering servicemen and women, symbolically significant beyond any family dynamics. So I think that he is in a impossible position here, being asked to be there by Prince Harry, because, he's damned if he does, he's damned if he doesn't. Royal watchers will be livid because they will consider it giving Harry credibility by standing there next to him on a stage at Invictus. And if he doesn't, does it look like a betrayal of these, service people that have sacrificed so much for their country? I think what will happen is Charles will say, I will see you there, but Meghan Markle cannot be there. Meghan cannot, I will not be photographed standing next to Meghan Markle. I will not do this if Meghan has a presence there near me.
Interesting. I mean, my prediction, I'm not nearly as expert on all this as you are, Kinsey. My prediction would be that I don't think the King will be able to turn up to the opening ceremony of the Invictus Games. I think there are too many other factors involved. But it all boils down to this, doesn't it, Kinsey? This is all part of Harry's obsession to get what the late, great Queen Elizabeth II told him he could never have. Same goes for Meghan. Harry wants to be a half-in, half-out royal. He wants to, and so does Meghan, they want to be on the West Coast, they want to be in America, making money out of their royal status. Then they want to hop on a plane, come back to Britain, open a few libraries, cut a few ribbons, do that royal stuff that royals do. Well, the Queen, the late Queen, said you can never do that. That's not going to happen. She, of course, sadly died. Harry, I think, frankly, disrespects her memory by continuing to campaign for this. I think he's a spoilt brat. If he gets told he can't have something, he will stamp his feet, he will have temper tantrums until he gets it. That's what we're stuck in. We're stuck in his pursuit of what the Queen banned him from having. He can't take that denial. He's so entitled. He's desperate to get half in, half out. He can never have that, but it won't stop him trying.
Well, I don't think he'll ever have that, but I think we were all surprised by the Highgrove meeting. So I can't say never when it comes to King Charles having a presence at the Invictus Games, because I thought for sure that King Charles would refuse to see Harry after Harry behaved so appallingly during his last trip, between the Buckingham Palace leaking briefing saying that's not true, they're lying, they invited me to stay there, they reneged on the offer, to the just unbelievable statement he made after the Daily Mail loss, accusing the King's Court of a whitewash. I was blown away that the King would break down and meet with Harry after Harry did not deserve a meeting. Like, there's just no other way to say it. Harry did not deserve that meeting. So I think that's why I find it impossible to say I can't see King Charles being representing the Invictus Games next year, because, well, also, and a lot can happen in 12 months. But when it comes to Harry's pursuit of the half in, half out, I mean, yes, I think that is desperately what he wants. And I've actually haven't seen, and I'd be curious to know your opinion, since the Queen died, I haven't seen anyone else or any other couple try to put words or change history when it comes to Queen Elizabeth more than Harry and Meghan. They put words in this deceased woman's mouth. Oh, the Queen understood where I was coming from. The Queen was devastated that, even when he said to Hoda Kotb when she was still alive that he was worried about the people around the Queen, he speaks about her in a way that I find completely disrespectful, considering the fact that she's gone and she isn't here to defend herself or say that's not true. I mean, they threatened to sue the BBC over the Lilibet drama, and they actually had to back down because the palace and the Queen so forcefully said, actually, no, you did not get our permission to name your child Lilibet. So Harry and Meghan continue to put words in this woman's mouth, continue to try to say that they had a relationship with Queen Elizabeth that they simply didn't have. At the end of the day, she made it clear to us she did not want these people half in, half out. And it should be period, end of story. They can't keep trying to change history.
Totally agree. And the Queen, we now know, I mean, it's pretty much documented now that she spent last couple of years of her life variously in a state of being really upset and or furious with the gruesome twosome with Harry and Meghan, particularly over her childhood nickname Lilibet. She was known to say, I don't actually own all that much. Being the Queen, means you inherit a lot of property and great works of art, but they're effectively the state's. They're not mine. She said, I haven't got much, but I've got my childhood name and they just stole it from me. She was furious and devastated about that. What do you think is going on with, last question, Kinsey, what do you think is going on between Harry and Meghan? We haven't seen them together for a long time. We know they've got cash problems, not helped by the fact Harry's got to find about £3 million, $5 million or so after losing that case against the Daily Mail so spectacularly. We know Meghan's not pleased about that at all. Where is their relationship at? It's kind of very strange, isn't it? We see a few pictures on Instagram. We saw more yesterday, I think it was, as she continues to try to promote this weird, baffling business of hers as ever. But we don't see much of them as an item very much these days. What is going on between them, do you think?
Well, my prediction is within the next 48 hours, they will be papped around Montecito for a Meghan Markle birthday dinner, which has happened previously. They find a celebrity. They actually find somebody that's like more successful and interesting than they are to go to dinner around Meghan Markle's birthday so that they can be papped going in and out of their favorite steakhouse in Montecito. So I expect we'll see them out and about for Meghan Markle's birthday via paparazzi. TMZ is one of the people that they call first thing, allegedly, when they're about to go out so that they can ensure that those pictures get out and about. Meghan might post a birthday Instagram posts because she never misses a beat. When it's time to celebrate Meghan, Meghan is the first in line to celebrate Meghan. So I can see her doing a happy birthday post where she looks loved up with Prince Harry in the next few days. Celebrating her 45th birthday. She was seen in Ojai, California a few days ago at a Girl Scout camp promoting Cookie Queens. She was seen last week at the Grove at a movie theater promoting Cookie Queens, where she talked lovingly about the advice Prince Harry gives her to stay above the fray. And it's like, girl, he hasn't taken his own advice in 6 years. So they're going to keep pushing the agenda. They're going to keep they want us to believe that everything's happy and hunky-dory behind the scenes because that's what brand Sussex needs.
Yes, indeed. So Meghan Markle, 45, but enough of her IQ. Just a joke, folks. Kinsey, fantastic to have you on the show as always. The brilliant Kinsey Schofield there, host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll take your calls. I'll read some of your messages. I don't know if we've got any WhatsApp voice notes, but if we have, I will play them out. And Peter Cardwell will be in fairly soon to let you know what he's got lined up for your entertainment between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. So all of that still to come. Stay tuned.
I think what he suspects is that the leadership of Reform is in trouble with all these scandals, apparent scandals over donations. Reform, nevertheless, is well known across the country. Reform as a vehicle is capable, if it has the right leadership, of actually forming a government. and that with the weakened leadership of reform, there's a risk that reform itself will be lost. And he doesn't want to lose the potential of a vehicle that could provide the kind of government that he and I and others wish this country to have.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. With reference to Morrison's selling advent calendars in July, Kerry's sent me a text saying, I've just booked breakfast with Santa at the Harvester near me. Happy Christmas, Kev. That's Kerry in Harpington. Thank you, Kerry. Happy Christmas to you too. What have we got here? Oh, yeah, this is good. This is from Richard. What a beautiful man Rod Liddle was. Every time we saw him, he just spoke so much common sense. Laura says, absolutely loved Rod Liddle, Kev. I'm not the best at understanding politics, but Rod always voiced his opinions in a way that people could understand. He had a wonderful way with words. R.I.P. Rod. Laura, you're absolutely right. He did have an extraordinary way with words. Giselle says, very sad to hear about the wonderful Rod Liddle. He was a mastermind. Condolences to his family and friends. And Paul Dobbs says about Rupert Lowe. Rupert Lowe has done this because he sees Nigel Farage and Reform as weakening in the polls, and he wants to paint Farage as too liberal to weaken him further. Not what Britain needs right now. That's Paul in Bentley. I think Paul's making a good point. You know, what was Rupert Lowe actually doing yesterday? Putting Nigel Farage in a difficult position when he's having a hard time anyway? Could be, couldn't it? It wasn't a genuine olive branch, I'll tell you that. 0344 499 1000. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Peter in Sussex. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
I'm good. You want to talk about what did you make of Andy Burnham going to the White Cliffs of Dover yesterday to tell us that numbers were coming down and that Labour's plan was working? What's he talking about?
He's just a chancer. I mean, what makes me laugh is how he can keep a straight face when he's saying this. And he wore a shirt and tie. Yeah. I mean, my God.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing, Peter. He's lucky. He's lucky that a small boat, or a big boat as they now are, didn't appear in the channel behind him, you know.
If only, Kevin.
Well, I'll tell you what, mate. I'll tell you what, Pete. Seriously, if he'd have done that on Saturday, funnily enough, yesterday, Sunday, was quite a light day on the channel. Saturday, I think around about 350 came across. So if he'd have done that PR stunt on the White Cliffs of Dover on Saturday, in the background you might have seen quite a few small boats coming across. Yeah, that would have been good, wouldn't it?
But what I can't understand, Kevin, with all these politicians, and with all the information coming out from Iran saying they've sent some cells, you know, some migrants.
Well, they're sending agents over. There's no doubt about that. I mean, posing as migrants.
What would it take for Labour and the Conservatives, because we know what reform, because they've been saying it for years.
Yeah.
But what would it take for Labour to say, right, this is a national emergency? Hundreds have got to be killed?
I don't think anything would trigger Labour to declare a national emergency, because they would see that as their failure. They don't like the idea of implying that this is some kind of crisis.
If we've got, let's say, 50 to 100, 200 Iranian cells, you know, migrants over here waiting to strike, the damage and carnage they will create is off the scale.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And we haven't got nothing to fight back with.
What we've got, though, Peter, is a Prime Minister and a government that are gaslighting us, telling us nothing to see here, everything is under control, Labour's plan to stop the boats is working. It palpably is not working, and it's extremely worrying that we have a government that wants to pretend to us, to lie to us that it is working. It really is terrifying. Go on.
a little bit, Kevin. My dad, my late dad, was in the World War II in the Atlantic crossings during the war, and he saw a lot of death there and destruction. I mean, he was a very proud sailor in the Ark Royal, and I'll tell you what, if he was alive today, he would be absolutely...
I think a lot of our parents, my parents are gone as well, a lot of our parents, Peter, who are no longer with us, if they could see what Britain has become, they would be shocked. It has changed beyond recognition.
Yeah, where's the pride gone?
Well, the migrant crisis is to blame for this huge change. It really is. Peter, I've got to go, but excellent call. Thank you very much. Peter in Sussex there. Let's talk to Jill in Cornwall. Hi, Jill.
Hi, Kev.
What did you make of Andy's bold announcement to the nation on the White Cliffs of Dover yesterday? Nothing to see here. The crisis is under control. Labour's plan to stop the boats is working. That's just a lie, isn't it?
Of course it is. Of course it is. And the awful thing is that he thinks we're sick enough and stupid enough to believe it.
I know. It was particularly empty verbiage he came up with yesterday. Word salad with Thousand Island dressing. It really was.
And he said, I mean, we've given the French so much money, so much.
£1 billion quid,
yeah. And then we've got the police giving interviews that they've been told to not stop the migrants from crossing.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, so what was that money for?
Well, it's always been a source of mystery. They don't. The idea was to get the les gendarmes to patrol the northern French beaches properly and stop the boats, stop the migrants. But they don't. They just look at them, wave them goodbye, au revoir, and say, "Be careful. That journey's a bit dangerous. That voyage you're about to embark on." That's it. That's what we get for our £1 billion. Money not well spent, Jill.
They obviously think that the British and people are as thick as, well...
Yeah, they do. Well, he does. He thinks he can sell... He's a snake oil salesman selling us currently lies when it comes to the migrant crisis. He's... well, he won't get away with it for very long, will he?
No. I don't think so. I think if there's a situation where we are able to... Well, we're able to have a voice through talk, which is great. Absolutely great. And the people that come on to talk, the so-called professionals that come on to talk to you and what have you, a lot of them I agree with what they've said, or with the fact that the awful thing is that they're not in a position to be able to change anything. And that's...
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, Joe. I mean, Reform UK today announcing their big plan to use the Navy to turn the boats around. I mean, frankly, nice idea, but so what? You can't be the government for at least 3 years, so thanks for that proposal, but it doesn't amount to a hill of beans. You're exactly right. It's just all very worrying, Jill, and will continue to be so as long as we have this Marxist running the country. Jill, great call as always. Jill in Cornwall there. Peter Cardwell is in the studio. He's going to take you up to 10 p.m. tonight. What do you got lined up, Pete?
Are you well, Kevin?
I'm very, very well.
Good stuff. Yes, 1,500 foreign criminals living in homes, asylum homes, and
we're
you're
paying
paying
for
the bill.
them,
Yeah,
right?
it's crazy. We'll talk about the reform plan. Will it work in